welcome here to a snow-covered edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you this morning inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Did you make it? Did we make it? We made it. Here in central and upstate New York. Man, I was talking to Ross off the air here. The power of the press. Trader Joe's looked like Black Friday. It was absolute insanity. I had to drive around multiple lanes to find a parking spot. I had to park somewhere between Barnes & Noble and Trader Joe's to get into Trader Joe's. And I mean, it was wild and crazy. And I feel like the ratio in Trader Joe's of women to men is like what Marywood University used to be, 10-1. So, but it was absolute insanity. And they scared a lot of people. They scare you into buying stuff. And hopefully you're doing okay. I know there's parts of this country that got ice. We had an ice storm years ago, which was awful because they were afraid of the power lines freezing and all of that. And there was people, I think, in the northern part of New York that were without power for a while. My cousin, and I got to give him a shout out, Mike, he was out there doing his thing and helping to try and get people's power back on. And, you know, he did a tremendous job back then. And he's one of those people that, you know, when we talk about these people that sacrifice, right? We're all trying to get in our house, stay warm, and, you know, pretend to be sleeping so somebody else will get up and shovel. And then there's people outside that are trying to keep our lights on, trying to keep our internet working, trying to make sure that we have water going to our households and our businesses. They're trying to make sure the roads are safe. They're coming out and getting us if we, God forbid, go off of the road. So there's a lot to be said about all the good Samaritans and all the work that's out there. So I want to preface everything this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora by first and foremost saying thank you from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios to all of the first responders, to all of the people that pick up our trash, pick up our recyclables, everyone that's working to keep our power on, our internet on, our heat on, and our water coming to the house. I want to thank everyone that is out there trying to make sure that those that are homeless and hungry are getting off the streets and getting in somewhere so they are not left out in this cold. Anyone and everyone that's doing a good deed for somebody else today, yesterday, and every day, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you. We love you. And without you, this world doesn't tick the way that we're used to it ticking. So many of us are used to using resources, but few of us are used to providing resources. And I want to thank God, the Almighty, first and foremost, for the resources He gives us every single day. And I want to thank those that help God to make sure that those resources are available to us. So many of us use, but so few of us really know where it comes from. And we just wake up and flip the switch and expect the light to turn on. And if we don't, we freak out. And the internet's supposed to work. And if it doesn't work, we freak out. And we turn the faucet on. And if the hot water doesn't come out, we freak out. But we don't think about all the people that are working behind the scenes to make sure we have those things. So to everybody that is keeping us safe and keeping our resources coming, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And thank you to God for providing the resources. And may everyone and anyone anywhere in this world have what they need, the bare necessities to be nourished, be clothed, be housed, be safe. So, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. I pray for safety, health, happiness. I welcome you all to the show, and I just hope that you're all doing well, staying safe, and no matter what your background is, what your religion is, what side of the coin you vote in, which has become the Bloods and the Crips, essentially. I mean, whatever's going on in your life and wherever you stand, may you know in moments like this, in moments where just being a normal, kind human being matters so much, to grab someone's arm and help them out of their car when it goes off the road. Let's remember in moments like today that we are human. We come from one family. We come from one God. We are not divided. We are one. And may moments like these moments, where things get treacherous and difficult, may we remember that humanity is one family, never meant to be divided. And I welcome everybody to the show. And I tell you that all the time. Whether you believe what I believe, whether you believe in nothing, whatever you voted for or didn't vote for, how much money you have, where you were born, where you come from, what part of the world you're watching and listening from, none of that matters to me. You're God's kid. I'm God's kid. We got to look out for each other. And so I hope that you do that today. God bless you all and stay safe. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we are inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Great Lakes Honda City comes to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York for sales and service. You can go to Great Lakes Honda City on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard Monday through Saturday, and you can always go online to check out their inventory at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. We're up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So however you're tuning into the show, we thank you so much for being here with us. And of course, once the shows go live, they jump into the archives, just like this one today, on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. Make sure that you memorize all those. There'll be a test at the end of the show here, and all you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. I'm very proud, thankful, and blessed. I wanted this gentleman to be on the show with me within these next couple weeks. We tried to make it work last week, and my niece is going to have surgery again, so we weren't able to make it work. But with some things happening, I was able to get Ross on here sooner because he belongs here on the show. He's been with me for many, many years. I love him dearly, and I know that you're used to DT and Murphy on Mondays to start off your week. Murph and I got to do a couple shows last week, and now Ross and I get to start off this week with you. Very happy to have Ross Turetsky here, fellow broadcaster and writer. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. The NFL playoffs, the championship round that just finished up, the upcoming title game between the Patriots and them Hawks, as well as Sam Darnold being left for dead in the NFL. Maye, we're going to be talking about him, the college football playoff making their decision, at least for a year, on what they're going to do with their system. Name, image, and likeness, the portal, and how those were not supposed to be used together. They were supposed to be separate. But, of course, with no rules in the NCAA per usual, there is now things like tampering that happen all the time and nobody cares. So, I shouldn't say nobody cares, but no one's getting punished. Dabo Sweeney cares. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And so I am here with the one, the only, Ross Turetsky, Roscoe Parrish, my guy. What's going on?
Yeah, man. The Turbo Man. What's up, Dan Tortora? This is Jingle All the Way. Hustler Vista, baby. It's not a tumor. It is freezing outside. I shoveled a foot of snow last night at midnight, and I'm here to do your show this morning, you little puny man. I still woke up on time to do the show. I hope you're happy. Seahawks, Patriots, Super Bowl 60. I will be hate watching the Super Bowl because I hate the New England Patriots. So I hope the Seahawks can win with former Jets quarterback Sam Darnold. I wish he could do well with the Jets, but no one could do well with the Jets because they all suck. So unless you could get Joe Namath to become 20 years old again and win them another Super Bowl, it's never got to happen in our lifetime. So I'm going to be rooting for Sam Darnold to do it because you have to do it. Do it now, not later. You got to stop Drake May and the Patriots because they've won too many Super Bowls. If they win this Super Bowl, they surpass my wife Abby's Pittsburgh Steelers, and they'll have 7 Super Bowls. They'll have 1 more. Once Brady left, the deal with the devil was supposed to be over with. They were supposed to never win a Super Bowl again, and now they might win it just a few years later. This is crazy. How did the Bills never make a Super Bowl during that whole time Brady left? And now they're back in it, the Patriots, and the Bills still have never made the Super Bowl. And they fired the head coach who won lots of games. It's madness, I tell you. Thank you for having me on the show, Dan.
Did that entire intro as Arnold Schwarzenegger.
By the way, you bought me this Turbo Man toy. You thought I didn't have it. I still have it.
He didn't let go of it the whole time. He just ran it right through. Ross Turetsky here with us this morning on
It is
Wake.
beautiful, Jamie. There'll be no sports talk today. We'll just talk about random gibberish.
And so we will have, I'm sure, shenanigans. That's why I already wrote it into the show. But we're happy to be here with you. Let's go to that. My brain, and I'm realizing it this morning when I wrote everything, my brain still told me that I had my prediction correct because I wrote Patriots and Rams. So my apologies to the Seahawks. You did
That was
win.
my pick too.
You,
Yeah, I had
yeah.
the same pick.
But
And my main
was,
thing was because I trusted Matthew Stafford, who's probably the MVP over Drake May, the regular season MVP. I trusted Matthew Stafford in the Rams over the Seahawks. And the Seahawks were at home, and they had a great team, great defense, Legion of Boom 2 defense.
yeah.
I didn't trust Sam Darnold in a big moment because I saw what he did with the Jets. Struggled, but everyone struggles with the Jets. Had struggles with Carolina. They actually kept saying, oh, he's the first quarterback to the 2018 class to make the Super Bowl. He technically made the Super Bowl 2 years ago, was a backup quarterback for the 49ers in 2023, where they lost to Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then last year was great with the Vikings, but then the winner gets the number one seed, Vikings and Lions. He got blown out that Sunday Night Football game, last game of the season, and then got beat up and got blown out by the Rams in the playoffs last year with his 1 year with the Vikings. And the Vikings didn't want to spend the money to resign him. They kept J.J. McCarthy, who was mediocre, got hurt all the time. And now they probably wish the Vikings, the Jets, the Panthers, all these teams probably wish we would have held on to Sam Darnold, because now Sam Darnold proved at the biggest moments he could lead a team to a Super Bowl. I didn't think he could do that. I'm like, Matthew Stafford, I trust him more. I still probably trust him a little bit more. But little by little, those biases are like, oh, he can't get it done in the big moment because of what I saw in the past. He needs to prove it to me. He started to prove it to me. I know, yeah, he might lay an egg in the Super Bowl, but especially if he gets it done in the Super Bowl, wins a championship on the biggest stage, I think all the doubts are gone. Yeah. And he's just a legit, now back-to-back Pro Bowl quarterback, making tons of money, and he's earning it. So if he, he's had a great season. If he does absolutely horrible in the Super Bowl, that would give me some pause there, and he still has to prove a little bit. But it's pretty much all the way there. So if he has a great Super Bowl, whether they win or lose, especially if they win it, and he's a Super Bowl champion starting quarterback and had a solid game, then all the questions are gone. And Sam Darnold's a made man. As they say in the Mafia Goodfellas movies, he's a made man, and he will always be a made man because he'll prove it in the biggest moments. He can get it done. And all those crappy years with the Jets, they will be past him. And I have to dig it up somewhere, but my kids, when we would go to the Jet games when they were really little, I actually have somewhere in my house a little Sam Darnold little plush doll, and they love Sam Darnold. We're still big Sam Darnold fans. We still have Sam Darnold jerseys at our house with the Jets. Wish he could have worked out. I don't know if it could work out with any Jets quarterback at this point, but I'm so happy for him. Once a Jet, always a Jet. That's what my brother told me yesterday when he messaged me. I'm proud of Sam Darnold, and we're happy that he's going to be in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks with Bad Bunny. So hopefully him and Bad Bunny will have a fun time and they can win a championship.
Yeah, and I mean, Sam Darnold, listen, and I've said this before, and I said it about two other quarterbacks, and now it's three. But you look at Aaron Rodgers, and he's a Jet, and it doesn't work. And I said, watch. He'll go to the Steelers. They'll make the playoffs in his first year with the Steelers. And people will say, what the hell's going on with the Jets? And then you look at Sam Darnold and what he's been able to do since he left. So now people look to Zach Wilson. But, I mean, it's...
No, I think that's the exception. Maybe you're right. But I think Zach Wilson is not the answer. If anything, with some of the reports about him, he seems more like he's into Stifler and Stifler's mom from American Pie fame. I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be the answer at quarterback. He was upset when they benched Tua with the Dolphins late in the year for the other quarterback from Texas, and he's like, "Oh, I should be playing. I should be sorry." I'm like, "Really? I don't think you should be playing." I saw you play. You're scared to throw the ball. You're afraid of getting hit, and you're going to get jacked up on the field. So maybe he'll be a reality TV star one day, or maybe a backup once in a while, but I don't see him. I think Johnny Manziel probably can play better quarterback than Zach Wilson. So he's the exception. But I do give you Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers and most quarterbacks. Geno Smith was mediocre with the Jets, and this year he was crappy with the Raiders, but he had a very successful career with the Seattle Seahawks under Pete Carroll. So usually the answer is leave the Jets and you become a good quarterback. You can at least become a functional quarterback and sometimes even an all-pro quarterback.
Well, and that's what I look at, and that's what I was getting at. You look at Aaron Rodgers and the success that he had after he left the Jets. You look at Geno Smith, who was this glorified backup left for dead, and he goes to the Seahawks and has a wonderful resurgence of his career, and obviously gets the ball out to a bunch of different guys and helps out fantasy football everywhere, has a lot of weapons, and does well in Seattle. And, with Vegas, and it's funny because if they blame Geno Smith for Vegas, then you have to say that Ashton Genty went from being like a 3,000-yard back to being a nobody. The reality of it all is the offensive line isn't there in Vegas. And if it's not there when Fernando Mendoza gets there...
Yeah, how will they save Mendoza? I feel bad for
Right.
him. He's going from perfect season national champion, Heisman winner, and the golden boy, and he's a man of faith, and I love Mendoza. I wish he somehow would slip to number 2 because the Jets have the number 2 pick, even though the Jets probably would screw him up. I'm the first to admit that, but I'd love to see the Jets get a chance to draft him. But the Raiders are probably going to draft him number 1. How the heck are they going to protect Mendoza? Hopefully they get it done. They also have Bowers, a great tight end from Georgia, and they have some weapons. And they have Crosby, the defensive pass rusher. But the Raiders, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if Mendoza, he might be running for his life every single play.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, you can't look at Geno Smith and say he went from obscurity and now he's back in obscurity. That's not a fair assessment because of the lack of an offensive line and the lack of the help that is needed there for the quarterback and the running back that we see currently in Las Vegas. And you hope that they'll do something to fix that so they don't leave Fernando Mendoza out there to get smacked every single play or every other play. But, yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, now Sam Darnold, we're seeing that if you leave the Jets organization as this washed-up nobody quarterback, who cares about him? He's not good. He's not fit for the NFL. He can't make it. When it came to Aaron Rodgers, he's past his prime. He's past his years. He can't do it anymore. The guy is just not focused on football. He's not there. He's not with it. Yeah, he's talented, but he can't. Geno Smith, he can't do it. He's not going to do it. He was never meant to be a starter. Sam Darnold, why'd they draft him? Why'd they do that? Why'd they spend a high pick? There was no reason to do it. You hear all this outside noise, and the reality of the outside noise is, by definition, it belongs outside. And so keeping that noise outside and looking at these quarterbacks right now, it has been more of a Jets problem than it has been a problem of any one of these quarterbacks, which begs the question, what are the Jets doing in their organization, or what are they not doing in their organization that is causing these things to happen, and happen now with 3 different quarterbacks where the world looks at them and says, wow, Sam Darnold must have been a busted pick. Wow, Aaron Rodgers must have not have been the move to make. Wow, Geno Smith really was never meant to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. If any of those things were true, they wouldn't be good in other places. And you look at that, and you look at franchises like the Cleveland Browns, like the New York Jets. When someone leaves their franchise, we see them look like a different player.
Yeah, look at Baker Mayfield with Cleveland. They gave up on him, and he's done amazing work with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers year after year. And he's an MVP candidate every year, and now he's doing funny Uber Eats commercials about them trying to sell you food while you watch a football game. They're going to have a lot of those during the Super Bowl. I saw even yesterday McConaughey and Bradley Cooper were doing a bunch of them. But yeah. I just think it's the consistent dysfunction. It's unorganized. They're constantly firing coaches, head coaches, GMs. They're being cheap sometimes, not getting the best coordinators and the best assistant coaches. They're not invested in it. The owners, Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, seems to be a train wreck. He openly calls out his players and makes fun of them and teases them while they're still on the roster. Buffalo better watch out because their owner, Pagula, he was doing the same thing at that press conference. He was throwing McDermott under the bus, the coach he just fired. And the Bills are a great team with Josh Allen, who could have a chance to win a Super Bowl every year for the next 10 years. He's only about to be 30 years old. Might be the greatest player in the world. But even the Bills owner is like, he somehow backed up his GM, who now he's promoted to even a higher position, Brandon Beane, and he said, he didn't want to draft that receiver Coleman, Keon Coleman. That was McDermott and the coaching staff did. That was not his pick. And so it's like he's thrown. And what's funny is Coleman is still on the active roster. He might still be. Maybe they'll cut him or get rid of him because it's embarrassing now. But he was throwing his head coach on the bus. I was like, what are you doing, Buffalo? You've been a class act, even though you've fallen short of going to the Super Bowl in the last, almost 10 years with Josh Allen, with a great player. That's more the stuff you'd hear from the Browns, the Jets. just very dysfunctional organizations. The Raiders over the years, they would call out their players and make fun of their players that are still on their roster, and that kind of dysfunction year after year. The best coaches usually don't want to go there. The best players don't want to go there. Some draft picks don't even want to go there. I'm still convinced Dante Moore decided to go back to Oregon because he saw that my Jets had the number 2 pick and Mendoza's going to go one to the Raiders. He's like, and he got embarrassed. But a lot of teams got beat up by Indiana in the college football playoff semifinal.
Yeah.
So that showed me some little pause, like maybe he's not the answer for the Jets, and he might be a bust either way. But I think he saw the Jets number 2, and he's like, I'd rather go back to college, make a few $1 million, have a chance to win a national title, Heisman for the Oregon Ducks. And I don't need to deal with the Jets and the circus that the Jets are with the #1 New York media market, just bashing you every day until you probably 3 years from now, you're washed up and you're the next Zach Wilson, you're thrown away, and maybe another team gives you a chance like Sam Darnold got, and eventually can work your way back up. Dante Moore, and it was funny, Oregon already got a quarterback replacement, the guy who thinks he's Pat Mahomes, who's played for Texas Tech and Nebraska and all that stuff. They got him, and now he's going to have to sit on the bench because Dante Moore is going to be the starting quarterback. He's like, I'm not dealing with this train wreck. I think that's the consistency you see is bad ownership, bad just structural support where they tear apart their players who are still even on their roster. The GMs, the coaches, they're not there. The players seem to struggle there. Whether the facilities are good or not, it seems year after year, these owners, they don't know what they're doing. And they need the right football people to get in the room and make the decisions, and they need to step back. But a lot of these guys, like, I pay the paychecks, so I don't need to listen. I can do whatever I want. Well, that very rarely works because unless you're George Steinbrenner, you have all the money in the world when he was doing it, but even he eventually got the right people in place to build that Yankees dynasty in the late 90s with Derek Jeter and company. It doesn't work like that. So I think it's just you look to the ownership, which people are like, oh, what's the difference? They're all rich billionaires. Consistent ownership that does the right thing, that protects their players and coaches, that has their back rather than rip them apart. That usually what leads to consistent victories and winning. And maybe just a few years bumps the road and then you rebuild quickly. The Jets, the Cleveland Browns, the Raiders, there are a lot of teams that fall into that where they just can't get out of their own way. And I think a lot of it goes back to the ownership and just very stupid decisions. You got to get smart football people in the room that can make the decisions, and the football owners hopefully can step back and just pay the paychecks. But for the Dallas Cowboys, as a Cowboy fan, Dan, Jerry Jones is like, that's never happening. I'm the GM. I'm the genius. That's why he threw Jimmy Johnson under the bus when they could have won many more Super Bowls back in the 90s dynasty. They threw that away because his ego got in the way. Jerry Jones thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And that's what I think what happens with the Jets with Woody Johnson. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and doesn't have to listen. And that's why you see year after year the Jets suck. Haven't been in the playoffs in 15 years. Haven't had a winning record in 10 years. The Jets are an abomination. And in my mind, I joke because they made the joke in Little Nicky, the Adam Sandler comedy from 2000, that the only reason why they won the one Super Bowl 3, and now we're Super Bowl 60, 57 years later, Joe Namath must have sold his soul to the devil because it's like he's the only quarterback who's really ever worked out, a Hall of Fame quarterback, and somehow he won a championship because it's never happened again in my lifetime. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. The only positive is we have 1,000 winning percentage in the Super Bowl, and that's never going to change, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also will always there's just moments in Jets history, and
the butt fumble, all the stupid plays they've made.
There's a lot of things, and Chad Pennington, obviously he was good, but
he did okay.
And the best punter to throw a ball in NFL history is Tom Tupa when they ran out of quarterbacks. But
yeah,
it's moments like this that beg the question: is it the organization when it's multiple people that the NFL that are perceived by fans as being bad? These players aren't good; they can't do anything, and then they go somewhere else and they have so much success. And I've said that since I was a little kid. I was like, why is it that a guy could change his jersey in the NFL and he's light years better, or he can change his jersey in the NFL and he disappears completely? So, and it's happened. It happened with Priest Holmes. It's happened with, we mentioned the Baker Mayfields of the world.
But Dan, the other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to hear your opinion on it. Sometimes I think the pressure might be a little too much. Like, at least in New York, they build them up because the Jets have been so bad for so long. They are looking for a savior. They're looking for the next Messiah to come down to the field and be the next Joe Namath. That was over 50 years ago. Maybe a lot of times, and maybe that's not fair to these players, or even to use that comparison, but maybe they crumble under the pressure with that large media market. that they're not just looking to be okay and be a decent correct to fit in. They're looking for the next amazing superstar who takes this garbage organization and leads them back to a Super Bowl. And they're so light years away from getting to that point. Like how would they accept just little incremental success? Having like an 8-win, 9-winning season, a winning season. That should be the goal. And instead, it's like we looking for the next great one to win us a championship, or else everyone's a bust. And maybe that also doesn't help things. They crumble under that pressure. When Sam Darnold was like 22 years old when he got drafted, and they looked at him like he was Jesus Christ on a football field. I'm like, that's not fair to him. Yeah. And then I still thought he should have gotten more of an opportunity. They gave him 3 years. He was injured. He even had mono at one point when I was going to a Jets game back in 2019. And then when the new coaching staff came in, they threw him away. Yeah. And they thought Zach Wilson would be the shinier toy. And that proved to be wrong. I'm not saying it would have worked out if they would have been more consistent with Darnold, and they would have committed to him. I think, though, if they would have kept Darnold and would have lowered the pressure a little bit, lowered the expectations, and built around him with more offensive weapons, like if they had Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, those guys came later with Zach Wilson. If they would have built those guys around Sam Darnold, I think Darnold would have had a chance to succeed in the NFL. Instead, he never got that opportunity. He never had the weapons to succeed in the NFL. And then when he fell on his face, and at best did just okay, they're like, oh, he's garbage. And he had to work his way up from the garbage, from the dump, with Carolina, back up with the 49ers, Vikings. They thought he was a one-hit wonder, and then he got embarrassed in the playoffs. And he actually got lost to the Rams last year in the playoffs, so he got his revenge last night against them and get to the Super Bowl. So it's crazy. And now what he's become with Seattle, I'm like, why couldn't this happen with the Jets? I know the organization seems cursed and they're dysfunctional, but was it too much expectation in your opinion? And just how does he get there? And maybe the Jets, the other answer was build around this guy, and maybe whether he's a superstar or not, they could have made it work and they could have been successful and had a winning seasons. Instead, they decided not to build around him and go for the new shinier toy, which turned out to be an absolute bust because Zach Wilson is a complete train wreck.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when it comes to the New York Jets, I've had the opportunity of being around the organization, and I was not fond of some of the front office stuff. And I was not fond of even the treatment of the media. Like people that were there for years and their treatment of them, like, oh yeah, you've covered us for years, but we don't need you. And I was like, well, now I'm looking at that and I'm looking at players and it's this whole, we don't need you. We don't need you. We don't need you. We don't need you. And that's not the way to run a front office, especially with people that want to be there and care about the organization. That's not how you do it. And I've seen that with other organizations. And my whole thing is, if you are a team that's struggling to win, but you have good people and you have a good organization and you actually do the thing within that word, which is be organized, and you care and you work together and you have a community and you have a family, like eventually you're going to win.
Well, like your Jaguars, your Jacksonville Jaguars had a lot of losing, right, but they had a good organizational structure in place. They had diehard fans with Duval who loved their Jaguars, and then it was only a matter of time. They got the right coach in there. Finally, they built up Trevor Lawrence, built weapons around him, and now your Jaguars are winning. When that looked like a lost cause for many years, like people were like, oh, they're just going to leave Florida and go to England, and they stink. And the Jaguars have built around their guy.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, I know it's just 1 year, but they're flourishing, and they might be a team on the rise for the years to come. And that's with Travis Hunter, who got hurt most of the year.
Yeah, and people forget about that too. And, I mean, yeah, in Jacksonville, they could improve too. But you see, like, I think the Giants are overnight, in my opinion, they got better with John Harbaugh. And, there's certain move in Jackson Dart coming in. There's and Theo Johnson. There's certain moves that you have to make. And obviously Cam Scatterbo, who I covered in the college football playoff. There's moves that you make as an organization. And yes, anybody can get talent. But it's what is the chemical makeup of your organization? The Dallas Cowboys have brought in a ton of talent, but the chemical makeup of their organization has the virus of Jerry Jones being involved in too much and not working with people. It's not that Jerry Jones is a bad guy. It's not that Jerry Jones doesn't care. It's not that Jerry Jones isn't smart or intelligent or makes good decisions. It's that he doesn't have other people in the room that maybe he's listening to or handing things off to.
Or
And
maybe that they could challenge him, that he has to actually
right.
talk to.
I don't want to
Instead,
be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
I want to be challenged by other people. I want other people to bring out the best of me. I want to surround myself with, and I say this all the time,
Yeah.
and you know this as being, more than a friend to me and being a brother to me. I tell people, I mean, your ears should be ringing every day because I talk about my family and I talk about my brothers, and you're a brother to me. And I speak to people about, like, I don't have any yes people in my life. Like, I have people that challenge me to be the best version of myself. And sometimes they see me better than I even see myself, and they help me get back there. They help me elevate myself to who I am. Dallas has had a lot of talent. Jerry Jones seems to be in the way. The Jets have had talent, but I've been around some of the chemical makeup of that organization, and I didn't like what I saw. And then years later, people are talking to me about it, and they're describing similar things about treatment and just how things are and how things work. And then, even with my Jaguars, they changed their front office. They brought in people that do not respect people, do not care about people, do not look at rationale, logic, body of work. And so Jacksonville, to me, I've lost some respect for their front office because whoever hired these people didn't care about building relationships in the community. And so I'm always searching for organizations that care. I mean, I tell people this all the time. I've worked in this business for over 20 years. The worst organization that I've ever worked with is in my hometown. By far the rudest, most disrespectful, must have been bullied in school because now they have power, but they treat people with just deplorable behavior and they don't care. And I mean, no workable internet, no media meal, like lack of information, changing things last minute, expecting people to drop everything and run to them, being rude. I've been yelled at 4 times for following the rules. Like, it's when you look at a team and you look at like a place that's not winning, and then you look behind the scenes at the organization, there's no surprise to me that my hometown has a place that has lost in so many sports, because I think you're finally seeing behind the curtain that the wizard is not a giant face with fire. It's just a human being trying to manipulate people.
It's just it's just an old Jeff Goldblum.
I wish it was
Jeff.
I wish it was Jeff Goldblum, because
But
at least I like Jeff Goldblum.
Not Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park with the shirt unbuttoned and his hairy chest and the gold shades. Not peak Jeff Goldblum when he's like 40 years old. I mean, like, and he's a great guy. He's a 70-something-year-old Jeff Goldblum now. That's more like the organization you're describing. I'm not talking about the peak Jeff Goldblum when he was the coolest guy in the whole world. He's cool now. He's just not as cool as he was back then. But that's the Jeff Goldblum that my mom always talks about. Is you gotta remember Jeff Goldblum when he was 40 years old, the sexiest guy alive, and now he's a kind of look like a creepy old grandpa in the new Wizard of the Oz or whatever you call it, the Wicked movies that I watch with my daughter.
No, but that's the thing is I have seen enough. I've been around long enough to see that there are certain organizations that lose consistently, and when you peek behind the curtain, and it always comes down to this. You can be a transactional person or you can be a relationship-based person. Those companies and organizations that don't care about the individual, group people together, treat people like they're cattle, don't respect people, don't value people, are not relationship-based, are not look at building things, don't value the people that have given them their time and their energy, those that have been there for a really long time. I mean, if you saw the way I was treated by some of these organizations, it doesn't surprise me when, because this is how I look at it. The same person that hired these people that treat people like garbage is also hiring the coaches.
Yeah.
And if you put together, and I always look at this, you want to hire like-minded people that agree with you, or you hire people that have no backbone that you know are not going to bother you, but you hire people, and what do people say all the time? Like, when we see you in, like, if you saw a woman in a crowd and she was surrounded by prostitutes and she's dressed the same as them, but she's not a prostitute, you're going to think she's a prostitute because she is the company she keeps. So when you're seeing these organizations and you're saying, okay, well, you've hired a certain group of people, or you didn't hire them, but when you came in, you didn't fire them. And you have a certain like way that they deal with people. If you have one person in your organization that is not a good communicator, disrespectful, crass, illogical, irrational, and power hungry, okay, you have one person. But when you blanket policy, have every major person in your department covering every major area, disrespectful to people, doesn't care about anybody, they can be an hour late, but you can't be 2 minutes late. They don't make sense. They're not the only thing consistent about them is their poor behavior and their bullying. When you have an entire department full of bullies, whether you hired them or not, you've now accepted this culture. When you have an entire department full of people that, you know, maybe you have an NFL team that doesn't scout well and consistently they haven't, and you don't make changes, and I'm never wishing on anybody to be fired, so let's be clear about that. I'm just making a statement. You are the company you keep. You are the environment you have. If you know that you're known for having an entire department of rude, deplorable, just absolutely maniacal people that like to drive people insane, you've accepted that. You've now become the school or the organization that is this. If you have people that don't do their homework and they don't scout and they don't develop like other teams do, you've now you have that moniker. Now when other NFL teams see you coming, they know this team doesn't scout. This team's not going to catch this guy because they've had the same 4 people there for 30 years and none of these people do their homework. Like, again, not asking that anybody is fired. It's just, what do you want your organization to be? If I have somebody in my organization and they don't edit correctly, it's my job to teach them how to edit. If I teach them repeatedly and they continue to not edit correctly, then I probably have to let them go and go find somebody who can edit or edit myself. You cannot open your floodgates and allow people to represent any organization that are not doing it in a way that is positive to the present and future of your franchise, of your business, of your team, of whatever you're doing. I am very, and you know this, I am very, very close to my vest on anyone I allow to have any connection to Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. And my team that you're a part of, it has been built over the years of me giving people an opportunity and then watching. And I'm okay with
well,
you
because they represent you. Anyone that you trust to bring into the fold on your shows or any events you do, remotes, like that represents you and what you stand for. So if there's people who are doing outlandish, crazy things they're saying or acting, or if they committed crimes or do bad things, you'd be associated with that. So you want to be associated with people who are going to do good things and going to help people. You're not going to want to have Dan, your brand. You know, you're a person, but you're also a brand. You're a company. So you don't want Dan Tortora, media, which is you, to then be associated with any negative publicity in that kind of way. So I 100% you trust people, and when you bring in the fold, it's like they need to earn your trust and keep your trust, because if they do bad things, as hard as it is, you're gonna have to then throw them away and say like, I can't be affiliated with this kind of behavior if someone acted up, because it represents you and your family and what you stand for.
Yeah, and I think people that do things a certain way, people that don't care about people think that it never comes back. And people that care about people sometimes feel like that never comes back. But the reality of it all is you never know who's watching. You never know who's paying attention. And, people that get away with murder, they they kind of swing the knife in front of you with the blood on it because they've never been caught. And eventually somebody goes, this is insane. Obviously they did it. And in the same respect, like I've been on the other side of it where you put all this work in and you're like, is anybody seeing it? And then I have a conversation at the College Football Playoff National Championship that people have been watching things for years that I had no idea that they were watching. So, I mean, you really do have to watch the way you treat people, watch the way you move, and watch the way you handle things. And I commend Sam Darnold because I've never heard him say a bad word about the Jets. And I commend now Aaron Rodgers, that scenario, whatever that was strange. But, ultimately, I mean, Geno moved on. And even me this morning, like, I didn't tell you what organization it was. I didn't tell you what they did. And I didn't give you names. But there are things that I feel like it's like you ride in the middle because I'm not perfect. And I have my sins. I have things I could be better at. So it's like, okay, God, how do I tell these stories? Because I believe some organizations are bullying people, and I don't stand up for bullies, and I don't keep my mouth shut on bullies. So how do I do this where I stick up for myself and other people and be a voice, but at the same time, I don't personally attack because I'm not trying to be like the people that I'm talking about. And so we don't say names here on the show.
But we know, Dan. You give enough breadcrumbs that I know who you're talking about. But I'll leave it there. But we know you just give us just enough of a taste. We have a good idea who you speak of.
Well, but the thing is I'm saying what I'm saying because
does the guy's last name rhyme with facts? That's all I'll say. Does it rhyme with facts?
It's actually nothing that I'm saying. That person doesn't even exist in my world. But that person, he doesn't matter at all. But I mean, he matters in the scheme of he's God's child, and I hope he makes it to heaven. But in my world, I don't even think about that guy. But no, I mean it's organization.
I'll keep making more guesses throughout the show. Yeah. I'll figure it out.
No, but it's organizationally. There's just things that you can see. Like I look at companies that constantly just have talent or have opportunity, and then you look at them and you're like, well, look at who you are. And it's funny, like when I look at certain organizations, I can say over a long period of time, there are organizations that don't care about people, don't care about how they treat people, don't care what they do to people, act like they don't need anybody. And then you go, oh, well, they've lost for the last 15 years. Oh, well, they've been irrelevant for a decade here and 3 decades there. Like, it's... If you win, and you win by crapping on people, I'm not in your corner.
Yeah.
I'm impartial, and I'll cover things, but, like, I've told people before, like, I think LeBron's a tremendous talent, but I'm not really a fan of some other things that he does and his lack of sportsmanship. So I'm never going to say he's the greatest player that ever lived, because if you walk off the court with 4 minutes left in the game, you're a grown-ass man. Like, we don't do that stuff. So, and if I did that, I'd want somebody to call me out and be like, you just walked away in the middle of something. Like, that's not how we do it.
Well, and then did you hear there was a story that came out that leaked out this past week where she kind of sold the shares of her team, but Jeannie Buss, the Lakers owner, apparently he's had enough with LeBron. At one point tried to trade him to the crosstown LA Clippers about 4 years ago in 2022, and apparently was also annoyed that he kind of pushed the Lakers that you have to draft Bron, even though he wasn't really good enough or qualified to be drafted at a USC after 1 year, scoring 4 points a game. And then she's like, he should have been, once we did that favor to him to keep LeBron there, because LeBron already said he'd leave to whatever team drafted LeBron or signed him, because no one, I think, wanted to draft him except the Lakers because LeBron forced them to. He kind of held them hostage.
Yeah.
And then she said he should have been more grateful, and he never once said thank you and just assumed, oh, my son should be in the NBA with me. Well, let's be honest, Bronny is, I don't want to be really nasty, but he's not an NBA player. He's at best a G League player who could probably then go to G League for 3 years, and I'll segue this to NIL, and then go play for Alabama because somehow that's allowed in college sports now. You could be a professional athlete in an NBA-affiliated G League for 3 years, making money, and then you could go off and play college sports. You're still an amateur somehow. So Bronny could have done that.
Yeah.
But Bronny doesn't belong in the NBA, and he's only there because of his dad, and because the dad wanted to play with his son, and he'll probably want to play with his other son, Bryce James, if he could still hang on that long, LeBron. I think that's why LeBron wants to keep playing.
Yeah.
He still plays pretty well. It's an ego thing, and he knows he's probably not going to win another title, another championship, but he also then wants to bring in his sons, give them a career, when Bronny doesn't deserve an NBA career. He's not good enough. He was never good enough, and it's only because it's 100% nepotism, which I know happens in Hollywood a lot and in sports, but he's only there because of the father and because the father pushed this. Bronny James, I think, has scored like 30 points his entire NBA career so far. He cannot play. He's maybe a minor league, G League player. He can play okay there. But in the NBA, he's not a good player, and that's just because. So you spoke of LeBron. I just thought about that story that broke this week that everyone's trying to deny it, but they don't like LeBron and his agent Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, that they have their tentacles all over the Lakers, and they push so many things, and he has so much power in the organization. The Lakers have had enough of it. They really want to transition from LeBron era to Luka, because Luka Doncic is the future of the Lakers. He's the current and the future of the Lakers. They don't want to have to deal with LeBron and his shenanigans anymore. So who knows if LeBron will end his career with the Lakers, or if they'll find a way just to break up, or he'll retire another year or two. But they want to move on to the LeBron era, and they want to move on to the Luka era. They've had enough of LeBron James, it seems.
Well, I'll say this, and I'll say this about the organizations I've talked about this morning, and I'll say this about LeBron James. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. You knew what was coming. You know what he is. Like,
he's the largest ego in the game in all sports.
And my thing is, I'm not here to personally attack LeBron. I'm using LeBron as an example.
Oh, he's a great player,
and I say that, and that's why I preface. He is a phenomenal player. He's an NBA champion. But when you break down basketball with me, does he play defense? Is he a good teammate? Does he make his teammates better? That's what I always look at. Do you make your teammates better? Michael Jordan is known for having a massive ego. But did he not say in a press conference when they talked about how great he was? He's like, what about Tony Kukoc? What about Luke Longley? What about Steve Kerr's three in the corner? If none of these guys do these things...
He's the guy who punched Steve Kerr in the face. He punched Steve Kerr in the face, and he still loves Steve Kerr because he knew Steve Kerr could produce for him. He trusted him. You're talking about circle of trust and trust like you have for your team, Dan. He trusted Steve Kerr. If he needed to, if he was being double and triple teamed Michael, he could then pass it to the corner, and he knew Steve Kerr was going to hit that three-pointer. So they might have hated each other's guts off the court, but on the court, he knew that guy could play, so he had respect for Steve Kerr. And LeBron, I think, used to have more trust, and he was on some bad Cavalier teams that he dragged to the NBA Finals. But now, as he's gotten older, he's gotten crankier. He sometimes, if someone doesn't do the right thing or messes up, he'll be in the corner, well away from his teammates, and he'll just glare at them with this disappointed look, like a grandma who's upset that you did something bad, and he's like, I don't want to deal with you, and puts that, and he just sits in the corner and doesn't want to be with his teammates. That's not a great teammate anymore. I'm not saying he was always like that. He used to play a lot of defense. Now he's gotten older. He picks and chooses when he plays defense because he neneeds to preserve his body as he's old. His body's breaking down. But he's 41 years old.
I just can't, and it's not just LeBron. It's all over the NBA. But why?
And all the days off they get.
Why are we promoting why are we promoting babies? These are baby. You're not a grown ass man if you're healthy and you're not. Do you know how many times I have done this? I had a ripped vocal cord. I literally had a strained vocal cord.
You fought through the pain.
And I talked for 3 months, and I did some shows pushing on my neck so that I could get the words out with less pain. I have done my show sick. There's when I'm sick and I feel awful and I don't want to move and I don't want to eat and I don't want to take a shower and I don't want to crawl to the bathroom and I don't want to do any. When I feel like I have no energy to do anything, I do my show. Yeah. So I don't want to hear load management and he's
and that's what Michael Jordan says. Michael Jordan, even his last year of his NBA career, when he was old, he was 40 years old for the Washington Wizards. Not even the Chicago Bull championship years, the Wizards who sucked. He played 82 games both years he played with the Wizards. He played every single game. As long as he wasn't badly hurt. He played every game. He said, that's your responsibility. They're paying good money, those fans. They come out and see you play. You want to give your team a chance to win. Those fans, those little kids, their parents who spent all that money, sometimes thousands of dollars, for transportation, food, tickets to go to the game, want to see Michael Jordan. He was going to go out there and play. Now they have a rule in the NBA that you have to, I think, play at least like 65 games, or you're not a certain percentage of games, or you're not even eligible for postseason awards like MVP or the first team, basketball.
You shouldn't be eligible for anything. Why is it 65%?
Yeah.
Like,
they have to make rules like that just to get people to willing to play a certain amount of games, or else they would sit out even more.
And then now they're talking. Well, is 82 too many? Do we need okay?
Well, right there, you sound like the funny man Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah,
he's like,
and I've been doing this voice. I've been doing this voice just as long or longer than Sebastian.
I know, it sounded just like it was funny.
But that's the thing. It's like, and the Italian comes out of me, and like when I get hot, it comes out of me even more, and then I start talking. But it's like, it's the reality of it all is, let's be real about something, okay? We are living in an American society that our World War II veterans would be embarrassed of. Okay? Yeah. We're living in a society where if these people were fighting a war, we'd be speaking German, there'd be a swastika on our flag, and everybody would just not know how it happened and just what could possibly have it just... No, stop, okay? Stop. We live in a world where everybody got a trophy. I saw they did a thing at Syracuse University where they honored fourth place. The trophy said fourth place on it. And Isaac looked at me and he goes, "We're giving fourth place trophies out now? Like, what are we doing?"
You don't even get an Olympic medal for fourth place. You got to at least get third place.
I said, what is the Olympic medal for fourth place? What is the Olympic medal for fourth? 10? Like, what?
I think it's your mother being ashamed of you. That's what the fourth place medal is. She just sends you a cameo video and says, "I'm ashamed of you, son." That's probably fourth place.
You know what I mean? Like, trophy. I remember there was a year where I won first place in high school for something I did. I think it was, it wasn't the science fair. It was, I don't know. We did, oh no. Was it? It was something at CBA, I think, but we won first place. The next year, we didn't win, and they gave us another ribbon, and I don't even know where that is. I was like, throw that crap out. Like, don't put that. My mom, we had the first place ribbon on the refrigerator. Like, what do you want me to do with the other one? Throw it in the trash. Like, I have trophies in my studio, okay? I have trophies in my studio. There is a championship trophy for basketball where I was MVP of the playoffs, and there's 3 fantasy football trophies. My baseball trophy of thanks for being here, not in the studio. My medals that I got just for showing up and having a pulse, not in my studio. So we created a society where everybody gets a trophy. I went to my godson's soccer games years ago, and I'm sitting here going, I look at Aaron, and so Johnny's like a brother to me too. I look at Aaron and his wife, and I said, "Aaron, what's the score?" And she goes, "We don't keep score." I said, "What?" Yeah. She goes, "We don't keep score." And
that's what they do in my son's soccer league. They don't keep score. I keep it in my head, but they don't.
No, I started keeping score, and I knew that Noah had 5 goals, and I know that they won like 8-3. So at the end of the game, they're like, "Yay, everyone, yay!" And I said, "Congratulations, Noah, on your victory." And Aaron looked at me, and I go, "Oh, they won 8-3, and he had 5 goals." I said, "I keep it. I keep it."
They look at you like you're a monster. I did the same thing with my son's football league, because when they're older, they keep score. But he was in the youngest group. He was the 6 and under group or whatever for football. His first year of football here for Dallas Mountaineers. Yeah. And I definitely kept track of all the stats in my head, all the scores. They don't do that because they want everyone to feel like a winner. And I get that to a degree. But in my mind, I'm like, there's competitive juices. And you got to be used to winning and losing and dealing with that in life and adapt and overcome, like my college baseball coach would say. And the famous Rocky Balboa speech that he gave his son, you got to get your butt off the ground and you got to keep fighting, pushing, and never giving up. You got to do stuff like that. Watch that inspirational speech on YouTube from the Rocky Balboa movie. It will get you to get your butt moving and stop feeling sorry for yourself. And sometimes there's bad stuff that happens in life. You get knocked to the ground. It happens to everyone. And you have to, the only other option you have is to get your butt up to have any chance of success. If you just wallow in it, you're never going to be able to achieve anything. So you got to be able to push, even when it's hard. You got to keep fighting through that pain as best as you can. And I get they want to protect the kids, but I think it's ridiculous And you're telling me the coaches aren't keeping track of the scores in their heads? Like even in these youth things, when I coach like my kid in like T-ball and the coach pitch, I'm keeping track of the score in my head. I might be psychotic like that, and I'm not going to put anyone down and make them feel bad. But I know what they're doing. I keep track what they're doing, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and that's kind of the society we're living in right now because no one wants to hurt anyone's feelings.
But that's the thing is, and what has it done?
Not much. It hasn't helped much.
The society of we can't say anything to anybody that's acting like a psycho. If you go into a Barnes & Noble, take your pants down, and poop in the middle of Barnes & Noble, you should be put in a straitjacket. The police should be called. The paddy wagon should be called. You should be put in a nice, fun vest that keeps you tight and snug, good for the cold weather, and you should be put in a room where you can bounce around on mattresses all day. You can't. Now you walk in there and you poop in the middle of Barnes & Noble as a grown man, and they go, well, I'm a kid, and I feel like purr. You know what I mean? No, you're a psychopath, and you should be put. No, anyone who thinks you're an animal, you're a psychopath, okay? I don't care what your age is. And if your child is doing it, then you're a psychopath because you taught that child how to be insane. So now you're spreading insanity, which is why we live where we live today. So let me get to this point.
The one thing I would say when you say that comedian I just said, Sebastian Maniscalco, I watch all his comedy specials. One of them even said in his class, the one girl is convinced and tells the teacher, and the teacher doesn't want to hurt her feelings, says, I'm a cat. And they have to treat her and talk to her like she's an actual cat. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, my kid doesn't learn anything. He can't read or write because the teacher and all the kids are distracted because this girl's acting like a cat. And they have to humor her and pretend she's a cat because they don't want to hurt her feelings. So he does a whole bit about it in his comedy act. Like, this is madness. He's like, why is she considered a cat? And why is this allowed?
Because her parents should be investigated. And probably, maybe that child has to be given to a family who is not filled with psychopaths. And we have to start calling things crazy that are crazy. We can't say that your version of reality is different than my version of reality. Your comments. I remember my ex-wife, in the many things that taught me that it was a bad relationship, we had a conversation, and she goes, you know what your problem is with this world? And this is a Sebastian Maniscalco moment for me. But she goes, you know what your problem is with this world? She goes, you think everybody has the same common sense. She said, but common sense is different for everybody. And I looked at her and I go, then it would be called uncommon sense. Like, what are we talking about? Like, common sense. Don't poop at Barnes & Noble in the middle of Barnes & Noble. Common sense. Don't set your hair on fire. It might burn you a little bit. Common sense. Don't put your hand on the stove. Common sense. If you see a snowplow coming, don't run head first at it and think that you're going to stop it like the Hulk. There's a lot of things that we should just know that are
common sense. Yeah. Don't let the New York Jets draft you, or else your career will be over. Common sense.
That's common sense.
That's avoid the Jets like the plague.
That's why Dante Moore, God bless you, because I hope he gets better this year, and I love his faith.
It would be funny though if he's one of the top picks next year, and the Jets suck again like they do every year, and the Jets are trying to draft him next year.
Dante Moore is going to have to ask for 7 years total of eligibility because the Jets got a lot of draft picks over the next couple of years.
By the way, that's madness. We can talk about that later. I just sent you a thing about Miami's getting a guy back for an 8th year. There's another guy going for a 9th year of college eligibility.
How the heck is there's an 11th. There was a guy who had 11 years. There was a Miami tight end that had 9 years.
Be a 40-year-old man playing college sports. It's madness.
Listen, that's the thing, though. What did they say?
It's one thing if you started later in life and went back to college. When I was coaching Luzerne County Community College baseball, I had some guys in their 30s come back to school to play baseball. They had eligibility. Right. How are you eligible? It used to be you got 5 or 6 years of eligibility. You usually get 4. But at 5 or 6, if you didn't play enough, if you didn't play a certain percentage of plays, you get a red shirt. If you get injured badly, you get a red shirt. COVID year, I can respect because that year screwed everything.
But those are over now.
Yeah, because everyone got a COVID year. But that's probably done because now that's about 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, some guys who are still, like when I cover Penn State Scranton sports, they still get an extra COVID year because they were still on the team when COVID was going on. Yeah. And that wasn't fair what happened in COVID where the seasons got shut down. High school, you don't get your eligibility back. You're just done. So that really sucked for high school seniors who couldn't play the last year of football or baseball. But for like other sports, baseball, basketball, if you're in college, you can get that year back. I understand. But besides the COVID year, which should have just been 1 year, and then if you got badly injured, 1 year, and then if you didn't play a lot, if you played like very little, you can get 1 year of redshirt. How are people getting more than like 6 years. How are you getting more than that? How are you getting the 8th year, the 9th year? At this point, you should have a doctorate degree.
That's what I say.
It's ridiculous. Like, they joked about that in Tommy Boy. David Spade told Chris Farley, what are you going to be for, a doctor? You've been in school for 7 years? It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, when are you going to leave? And then Carson Beck and these guys who I don't think have any real future in the NFL, they're making $4.5 million to play for Miami. And then the guy doesn't even have, he's been in college for seems like a decade. He doesn't even have the class and the manners to shake Mendoza and Indiana's hands when they lose and get embarrassed on their home field in Miami in the national championship. Carson Beck's too cool for school. He thinks he's Tom Brady. He walks off the field without shaking anyone's hand. But yet the dude's been in school for a decade, making millions of dollars. And I'm like, first of all, you should have no eligibility left. And then you don't have the class to shake someone's hand after you lose the championship when you throw the losing pick. So that's just, I'm on my soapbox, but you should not have eligibility a decade in, being like 30, 40 years old, unless you're starting at that age. But if you've been playing since your early 20s, you should not be able to play a decade of college sports. And then what I told you about that, the G League player, he played in the G League for 3 years. How is it allowed? And even Hurley at UConn is complaining. A lot of coaches, Calipari's complaining. How is Alabama and other teams might now follow suit, just like the NIL, the madness where you're tampering. Dabble Sweeney's accusing Coach Golden of Mississippi, who replaced Lane Kiffin, who does some very shady, scummy things, that he's texted a guy in class at 8 a.m. He's like, oh, I know you're signed, but how much is the buyout? Like, so I can steal you away. So that's allowed, and now you're allowing, it's the Wild Wild West college sports. I'm on my soapbox, but I'm transitioning to that because that angers, annoys me that you can play for like a decade plus, keep getting years of eligibility, and then guys who are playing pro basketball, even if it's minor league basketball in the G League, sponsored by the NBA, he then can go back, be considered an amateur, and play at Alabama. That's madness. Like, how is this allowed? It's become a complete crap show, the collegiate athletics, if you're going to allow this. And it's the Wild Wild West. There's no ruling body. Someone in the NCAA or a non-biased, unaffiliated NCAA body needs to become the leaders of college athletics so they can actually put some rules in place and there's not tampering, people trying to steal each other and trying to make guys eligible forever. And then you have the guy like Chandless, the Ole Miss quarterback, who was the Division II national champion and almost led them to a title at Ole Miss. He then was trying to get back another year of eligibility. I think he's like 6th year of eligibility, and they told him no. Yeah. So why is he not eligible for another year? But then these other guys are eligible for 8th and 9th years. So it's like, it's not consistent, and I think it's crazy what college sports has become. And I'm passionate about it because I love it, and I've coached college sports, and I've covered college sports for many years, just like you have. Yeah. And why has it become a complete free-for-all, and no one seems to be able to find a way to get any organizational consistent rules to make sure that we have a legit governing body to make college sports fair again? It's nuts.
Well, because the NCAA apparently has the worst lawyers in the history of mankind, and they don't ever win cases. So now,
and one more thing before and then I'll let you go. And then Notre Dame was just pretty much given a playoff spot next year. Oh yeah. Because now they made a rule. They're going to keep it at 12 teams. The college football playoff. Other conferences like Big Ten, SEC wanted 16, 24. 24 is probably too much. 16 I'd be okay with. They're going to keep it at 12 for this season, upcoming year in 2026. Notre Dame, because they're pissed off they didn't get in the tournament this year, the playoff, and then they sat out their bowl game, took their ball and ran home with it like a little crybabies. Now they're going to have a rule that as long as they're in the top 12, the top 12 in the AP poll, that they will automatically get in the college football playoff. Guaranteed. It's written in there. Either they're not forced to have to join a conference, share any conference money, play for a conference championship. They're just going to automatically get in, and they get to handpick their schedule that only has usually 2 good opponents on it every year. The rest of their opponents are garbage. So if they go 10-2 and beat bad teams, they're going to guarantee themselves being in the top 12 in the poll, and they're going to get in the playoff with a chance to win a championship. So they've written that into the rule book because Notre Dame is that powerful, or their lobbyists are, and so NCAA is going to allow that now for their playoff system. So now I'll let you continue, but that's another thing that annoys me, that I like Notre Dame, but that's gone too far when they pretty much have written themselves into the playoff next year because they're pissed off they got held back and then get in this year.
Yeah, but the thing is shame on the college football playoff committee for letting that crap happen. Okay? Notre Dame is a giant baby. That's all they are. They're a giant baby.
Because BYU was willing to, after they got snubbed, they were willing to go play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Notre Dame's like, we're not doing it.
No, but they're a giant baby. It's a giant baby. Okay? By the way, I'm Catholic. Notre Dame is a Catholic school. The messages I receive from your fan base, 0% Catholic. I don't know what Jesus you represent or what God you believe in, but he don't speak like that.
Well, you probably pissed them off because you told them they don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
I told them what the committee told them.
They lost head-to-head to Miami, and lost head-to-head to Texas A&M. So they didn't deserve
if you beat Stanford, nobody cares, okay?
Yeah.
This is what I want to tell Notre Dame. You want to know what's happened in the history of sports? When you don't beat teams, you don't win trophies. You don't get promoted for losing to teams. You lost to the two best teams you played, and you beat a lot of teams that you beat every year.
Yeah.
So what are you complaining about? You didn't win. You're not sitting here 12-0. You're not like UCF and Cincinnati and Houston and Coastal Carolina and James
claim a
Madison.
share of the title,
Yeah. You're not sitting here saying we're 12-0, 11-1. Why don't we get a chance? You're saying we played a whole lot of nothing that we normally beat, and then we lost to the teams that are good. Okay,
and they wanted to be over
Navy's
that.
A good
and then
team.
some of their fans wanted it if Miami would have beaten Indiana in that title game, which thankfully didn't happen. Indiana got to complete their perfect 16-0 season, first time since Yale, like 130 years ago. A lot of their fans wanted them to claim a part of the national title if Miami would have won, saying that we should have been over Miami because we were ranked higher than them most of the season.
There.
You know, Miami, the very first game of the season, close game, beat them head to head. They wanted to claim a part of the national championship.
Here's the thing, okay? You lose. Okay, I'm going to go back to my original point that I was making a little bit ago. Not everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Okay? Not everybody gets a trophy. If you don't like it, I don't care. Okay? If I'm a principal and you go to the school board, I want my trophy for being... No, your child was picking worms out of the ground, putting them up their nose while other people were playing soccer. Your child's not in the same world as these other kids, okay? Why he likes to stick them up his nose is beyond me. But if he does that at your house, he could do that at your house. Okay?
By the way, I love the rant. It's definitely like Lewis Black or Smash Mountain Chicago. This is the kind of rant they would get.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is me. This is how I feel, okay? If we're playing basketball and your kid's in the corner picking his butt and everybody else is dribbling, whatever he dribbles out of his butt is not the same as that. You don't get a championship trophy, okay? The fact that I got a championship trophy in basketball and it's the same size as the trophies that everybody, we were happy that you were here and that you showed up and ate pizza. That should not be the same trophy. My trophy for winning a championship with my team should be the biggest trophy or the only trophy. And not that I care about the size. I'm just saying, if you're giving everybody a trophy and it's this big, then the championship trophy should be a little bit bigger. It shouldn't be, hey, you're champions. You ate pizza and got here on time, so you get the same trophy. You shouldn't. But this is the society we live in. Because we let everybody get a trophy, and we have literally told people, if you try hard, you get a trophy. If you don't try hard, you get a trophy. If you win all your games, you get a trophy. If you lose all your games, you get a trophy. What you've taught this world is they have this weird warped view of reality where they don't think that they have to give any effort. They don't have to do anything. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes, and I said it during COVID, when we were all at home, if the government wanted to give us some money, understood. But when they opened up the doors and said you could go back to work, and the government said you can either go back to work or we can continue to pay you to sit at home and be a slob, when they did that, they killed our society. Because look at it now. And I told people, you're not going to complain and you're not going to moan about it until it affects you. When you go to a movie theater and there's 17 places to buy a ticket, there's 17 stands and there's only one stand open, and one person's doing the popcorn, the ices, the tickets. They're the person cleaning. They're the one that runs to each thing and turns the projectors on to make sure it works. When you got one person working at the movie theater, now all of a sudden it's a problem, but it wasn't a problem before. Or you go to the game. How about this? You go to a restaurant. There's 47 tables open, and they go, it's an hour and a half wait. And you go, there's nobody sitting in this whole section.
They can't get people to do the job
we
now.
don't
They
have
can't
anybody
get them to
running
work.
that section. Why? Because you taught those people to sit at home.
Yeah.
Giving everybody a trophy, giving people free money, telling people if you do nothing, if you amount to nothing, if you give nothing to society, you are as valued in society as someone who contributes nothing and does nothing and never tries and never puts themselves out there. If you sit and you do absolutely nothing, you can be king of the castle, you can be queen of the kingdom. This is one of the stupidest things that we did, but this is the society we live in now. And the fact that the NBA has allowed people to sit down because I gotta just stay here and just think about my life before I
load management. Had you ever heard of that term before Kawhi Leonard kept using, they need to do load management because he can't handle a whole season? I had never heard of that term until Kawhi Leonard came
Let me tell you something about load management, okay? Load management is on the docks of the people that are out there that are moving shipments so you can get your friggin' Amazon orders. That's load management, okay?
Yeah.
They're the ones that are out here putting these things, moving. Load management, how much can I take in the 18-wheeler to ship this stuff to your house? The NBA is a prime example of everybody gets a trophy right now. Because what the NBA has essentially done is it took good, hardworking men who put their bodies on the line every friggin' day or every other day. They took that NBA of the Grizzly, awesome, just giving it to you. The guy that was the worst player in the NBA was still playing 82 games, still killing it. You got Michael Jordan making $33 million a year. You got Rex Chapman making $750K a year. But the two of them were sweating the same in every game. Now you have this NBA where you can just go and be a baby and you can sit out and you got a hangnail and you think your eyebrows aren't done right and you can sit out of the stupid game. And now what are they saying? Should we lower the season from 82 games?
Yeah.
Should we take away? So you're taking a society that you morphed into a bunch of wusses and you're feeding it. People say, why is society deteriorating? Because you gave everybody a trophy, and now you're hiring those people to work in your store, and now they don't show up on time. They don't do anything you tell them to do. They're on their phone all the time because they got a trophy as a child, and they were told that they were good for doing nothing. They were promoted for being not a good employee. So now that they're your employee, they're now your problem, but it's a problem that society perpetually created over the years by making people think if you give effort or no effort, you're the same person. You're not the same person.
It sounds like you're describing society almost like Ben Simmons, who can't get a job in the NBA, who just wanted to sit on the bench, collect $30 plus million a year, do nothing.
Crazy.
First few years, he was an all-star. He played well. And all of a sudden, it came to him. I don't know if it was when he was dating a Kardashian or at some point he decided, I'm just going to collect money for not doing anything and create fake injuries. So, like, that always would frustrate me with a guy like Ben Simmons. He has obvious talent. Why does he refuse to play? Because he got paid either way. It didn't matter. There was no incentive. He didn't have the desire of a job well done. You have to earn it. You want to earn your money. You want to win a championship. That didn't seem to be his number one desire. It was, let me make money for doing as little as I possibly can because I can get away with it because that's what society allows now.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Let me just, so to finish the point.
And I know we sound like Clint Eastwood saying, get off my lawn.
No, this is real life, okay? Folks, this is real life. You have more resources now than you ever had. You have more information that you ever had. You have more people on staff of these teams that you ever had. You have nutritionists. You have all of these strength and conditioning people. They have more resources than Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, Reggie Miller, Scottie Pippen, Patrick Ewing, so on and so forth, ever had. If they can play 82 games in the 90s, the 80s, whatever, if they can play all these games back then, okay, they don't sit out the playoffs, they don't sit out the preseason, they don't sit out anything, they don't refuse to go play for America and represent America because I don't want to get a boo-boo when I'm in Germany. Like, they played back then, and they didn't complain, and they worked hard. And they did.
But that's the thing. I think a lot of them might have played through injuries, but there was pride. There was competitiveness. There was, if I see Jordan or Ewing playing 82 games, Scottie Pippen played.
Michael Jordan played with the flu.
Then I play 82, and he played the game of his life. And then they were saying, if you watch his Last Dance documentary, it turned out not to be the flu. They claim he got food poison because apparently when he was in Utah in the NBA Finals, he decided to get a late night gigantic pizza pie. He had his whole crew, instead of taste testing to see if they get food poisoning first, he apparently ate an entire pizza right in front of them. And they let him do it. And they claim now, according to the documentary, unless they're BSing us, that he got food poisoning because they knew it was Jordan and they wanted to hurt him so he couldn't play and win the championship over them. And he still played the game of his life and destroyed the Utah Jazz and won an NBA title. But I think that back then, and it was only the 80s and 90s, which now is almost like 3 decades ago. It's it's hard to believe. I feel like that was just yesterday. That's because I'm getting older. I'm going to be 40 this year. But I feel like there was a pride. There was competitors. They're like, if Jordan, if Pippen, if Ewing, if Barkley, Olajuwon, if all these greats could play the full 82 games, play as many games as possible, I can do the same thing because I need to be there. I need to be just as good as them. I need to be there for when those fans shell out all that dough to be at the game. And now that's gone out the window because no one really cares about that. They're like, if I can, so be it. I'll still get paid. And if I'm ready for the playoffs and win an NBA championship, that's all that matters. Or now you can win a stupid in-season NBA tournament cup. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter.
So now you only have to play half a season. Now you only play 20 games.
Who cares? The Knicks won an in-season tournament. Whoop-de-doo. They're never going to win an NBA title, and they're my favorite team. Whoop-de-doo. I don't care about the NBA in-season tournament. I won championships. So they're like, we'll load management, and we'll find a way to get through the season. You should be able to feel the desire and the pride that I'm going to go out there and play every day as long as I'm not badly injured. If I'm a little nicked up, if I'm a little bit sick, I'm going to play through it just like I would go to school through it. I'd play college sports through it. I'd coach through it. Yeah. I would go cover sporting events, high school football games, college sporting events. I would push through even if I'm not feeling great.
Yeah.
If you're feeling awful, I can understand. Or if you're badly injured, you tore your ACL, I can understand. Even though back in the day people were crazy. Ronnie Lott would cut off part of his finger so you keep playing a playoff game. That's a little psychotic. I admit that. But if you can push through and you can do your best and still go out there and give a good effort, then that's what you should be doing because you should have some pride in your work. And anytime I write my name on a thing I write, an article I write, I have pride. I don't want to turn in a piece of garbage, whether I was 5 years old, junior high, high school, college, now as a professional, as an adult. I don't want to embarrass myself, embarrass my family, embarrass anyone that knows me who stands up for me and says, I do all this good work and they give me a good reputation by being lazy. Because if I'm lazy and put out bad, subpar work, I feel embarrassed that I destroyed your confidence that you put in me. And I don't want that. But a lot of society doesn't care, and that's spilled into college and professional athletics, unfortunately, and all the way down to pee-wee football and youth sports as well.
But again, why are we getting the NCAA that we're getting right now? Why are we getting these guys that don't understand that they have no commitment to anything? They go wherever they want. They go to 4 schools in 5 years, 5 schools in 4 years.
They're free agents every year with the portal. It's madness.
But the thing is it's worse than free agency because free agency you don't have free agency in the NFL during the playoffs.
Yeah.
You don't have free agency in the NFL in between the regular season and the start of the postseason where the teams can totally. Yeah, none of this makes any sense. But again, we created this society. And I tell people this all the time. Speak up. You don't have to be rude, but speak up. Okay? When you go to a parent-teacher conference and the teacher says, "Hi, kids, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure that if you think you're a bear, you can run around and you can climb on the walls. And if you think you're a kitten, we got litter boxes in the corner. And if you think you're a hippo, we got a little pool that we blow up water in and you can stick your head out when you want to learn something." If you're a parent and you're in that room, make sure that human being does not teach anymore in the district or maybe anywhere because who did they let, is the Joker? Who's teaching our schools now? The Joker, the Riddler? I would like the Riddler to teach the school. At least you would have to think and you'd have to learn something because the Riddler's riddles are very difficult. But between the Scarecrow, the Joker, and Killer Croc, there's a lot of people here. And maybe Killer Croc's the one that's teaching since all of our children think they're animals now. But we created this society. We stood by and said, "Hey, that's weird, but I'm not going to say anything." Or, "That's weird, but it's not my kid." Or, "That's weird, but it's not what we do in our house." We stood by, shook our heads, but we didn't stand up for anything. There's first place, there's second place, there's third place. In most things in life, there's one CEO. 900 people applied for the job. 900 people don't get a phone call saying, congratulations, you're the CEO of Disney. One person gets it. We're not teaching children real life skills. We're not teaching them how life works. You cannot win in life by telling
and how to
people.
deal with disappointment, like, because that's
Right.
an important thing, because you're gonna fail at times.
Right.
Everyone will fail in life at some
if you
point.
don't put in the effort, if you don't put in the work, like you don't get an A on your paper for writing your name. If I ask you to give me a paper about World War II and somebody gives me a World War II thing, breaks it down, here's the years, here's the major battles, this is how it was won, this is when Germany was leading, this is the Axis powers, here are the Allied powers, this is what happened, this is how America got involved, and you give me all the information, okay, you got an A, you were thorough. If somebody hands in a paper and goes, I like butterflies, you get an F, and you get to come back next year, and we get to try again. We have to stop pushing people through the system that aren't learning anything, aren't growing, aren't developing, because then they become adults, and then those adults don't come to work, and those adults are not consistent, and those adults don't care about other people, and then they go into the NBA, and they've been given a trophy for participating forever, and then they come into the NBA, and they sit out. Do you know how many thousands upon thousands, D1, D2, D3, JUCO, overseas, G League,
would do anything to get the play.
There are so many people that would love to be in LeBron's seat, love to be in Durant's seat, love to be in Steph's seat, love to be in Luka's seat, love to be in Nikola's seat, would love the opportunity to just be there on the court. And the fact of the matter is, if they could do it in the 80s and the 90s without the nutritionist, without the sports psychologist, without the people talking to them about their day, without the people giving the strength and conditioning, you might have had a janitor that gave you some advice from what he's seen over the years about the weights you should lift, or you might have somebody that's on one team out of all the franchises who the woman is the owner, but she was also a nutritionist in school, so she knows what you should be eating. But it wasn't a blanket policy. I don't know how we live in a society right now where we've never had this much information, never had this much access to it, and never had these many resources, yet we suck at getting anything done looking like we actually give a crap about it. So here's my advice to the NBA. You have babied the hell out of these guys. They make millions of dollars. They make more money. One guy makes more money than a nurse. Well, maybe not a nurse, because I know those anesthetists make a lot of money. Let me rephrase here. When you look at a police officer and a firefighter and a first responder, somebody's on an ambulance, you put all those people together, you're making more money than people saving lives. Get out there for 2 hours, play some dang basketball, or else leave the league and let somebody else have the spot. But the fact that we are in this society right now talking about, do we shorten the season and make them... No, we don't shorten the season, okay? All we've been doing is appeasing mediocrity. We've been appeasing lack of effort, lack of responsibility, lack of teamwork, lack of care. This society is deteriorating because when we see somebody doing nothing, we're giving them money. We're giving them trophies. We're giving them resources. We're helping them out. We should not be looking at shortening the NBA season. We should be looking at the NBA saying that there was a time where the San Antonio Spurs were being investigated for potential, what wasn't called load management back then, of why is Tim Duncan sitting? Why is Manu Ginobili sitting? Why is Tony Parker sitting?
Well, that's because it was a nationally televised game, and the NBA was upset because they're like they was going to hurt their ratings. They had hyped up this game, and then all the best players on the Spurs, Coach Greg Popovich, a Hall of Fame coach, is like, I don't give a crap. I'm going to do what's best for my team. And the NBA got embarrassed. They got upset, and they're like, we're going to fine you. We're going to get you in trouble because you're hurting our bottom line. And now that's a regular basis. That was a big story when that happened, and now that's just like a regular Tuesday during the week. Like, no one thinks about that. That so many people sit out. It's just par for the course.
So it was once a punishable offense. Now it's been normalized. How many things in American society were once punishable, once crazy, once considered out of the ordinary that have now been normalized into our society? It is systematic to take something that is wrong, something that is against the rules, and then change the rules. And then all of a sudden, you're in a society where nobody cares. Nobody pays attention. Now it's become normal. The Spurs were breaking the rules. Now we don't even talk about load management because it's normal. It just happens. And if we shorten the season, load management is a crock of BS. Okay, you can't play 82 games. Okay, 82 games. There's 365 days in the year. You know how many shows I do? 250. Yeah, you're not putting your body on the line. Really? I'm not moving equipment. I haven't had to move equipment and lug things around when my back was hurting or my neck was hurting. Do you know how heavy my stuff is when I travel? How much stuff that I have to do and all of these things? Or how long I'm on the computer? How your brain can tell your body, I'm tired. My body could be ready to go, ready to attack life. But I'm sitting here for 16 hours on the computer editing, and my brain tells my body, I got to shut it down. See, people don't understand. I can run marathons with my brain sitting at a computer like you can run marathons with your legs. There are so many things asked of you in your life. I don't complain, okay? I go and I do it. There's things that I like. There's things that I would love to change, but I go and do it. If I had the opportunity as a kid who loves basketball to play in the NBA, I would never, ever go, you know what? I'm going to take today off because it's my day to put my binky in my mouth and watch Netflix. Like, I'm going to play the basketball game and I can watch Netflix when I go home. And here's the thing, okay? I just want to ask the NBA players this for a second. Okay, on the day that you're load managing and you're not playing because you're totally healthy, but you just need a day for yourself, are you still getting massages? Are you still going to the club? Are you still hanging with the ladies after the game? Are you still going out to eat? Are you still drinking? Because let me tell you something.
How much rest are they actually getting?
Right,
And then my other thing would be,
here's my thing.
Don't you have any pride in your work? Wouldn't you be embarrassed that your guys are having blood, sweat, and tears putting their bodies on the line, and you're like, I can't be bothered today because I need to rest, while you're doing all these other things that you're not really rested from, and you're still working out and doing all your things and having fun, maybe playing Call of Duty video games all night long like Kyler Murray does in the NFL. I'm like, so how much you really doing? And then meanwhile, you're leaving your teammates who are supposed to be your second family. You see more than your family during the season. You're leaving them on the line, leaving them in the lurch while they have to bust their butt. You just sit there in a fancy suit and you just watch the game. Couldn't care less. So that's my other thing. It's like, don't you have pride? Wouldn't you be embarrassed that you're not going to be there for your family, for your teammates, for your brothers, and not help them out there on that field if you can? If you can help them on that field or court, I would do everything in my power to do that. Unless you're badly injured, can't move, can't walk, can't run, unless you're badly hurt, you should be out there playing. If you're a little nicked up, a little bit sick, go out there and play, and then and heal up and get the treatment you need from the doctors and from the trainers after the game. Because that's ridiculous that you're going to let them hold in the bag and leave your teammates, your brothers, leave them in the lurch while you just sit there and do nothing.
Right, and it's stupid and it's ridiculous, and I've used the example all the time. You got a father and son living in Syracuse, New York. They go out to L.A. All in all, they spend $5,000 on their trip between money and travel and Uber and getting a hotel and going to the game and buying jerseys. They spend $5,000. They go, and it's the first game that the kid's been to. Dad's so excited. It's for the little kid's birthday. He brings little Timmy across the country, spends $5,000, gets to the game, and finds out that LeBron James decided to take the day off.
Yep.
I mean,
how awful that kid would feel and how awful the dad would feel.
And the thing is LeBron James going to reimburse me the $5,000? So,
nope.
Again, we should not be surprised at the me society and NIL and the transfer portal. We should not be surprised in the, well, I didn't know that I couldn't just show up and get a paycheck for having a pulse. We should not be surprised in the, I'm going to take a day off because I need a day off because I get a personal day. We should not be surprised of any of this stuff because we created this stuff. The only way you change it is by telling society enough is enough. Enough is enough. If any of this stuff existed in our society back in the 1930s and 40s, we would be speaking German. This society could not handle. Do you know how excited China and Russia are that our children think they're cats? Because when they come, if they ever come after this country someday, and they wait a couple generations and they play the long game, they're going to show up to America with guns and bazookas, and they're going to be met with, And it's going to be a really easy fight.
Well, also, like, how could we? Some people work on the global stage, business world, Wall Street, and you're doing stocks and doing all this stuff around the world. The economy is a global economy. How can we expect our kids to compete if they're going to act like that and have low standards? And like, there's kids in all these other
No work
countries
ethic.
who work really hard, who have to get really good grades, or their parents, so that you're going to be in lots of trouble with your parents. I'll just say it like that, old school style here, which now you don't really see anymore. How are we going to be able to compete and have our kids compete on the global stage around the world if we're expected to do the bare minimum and sometimes less than that, while kids around the world have like tiger moms, and it's a lot of pressure, but they're expected excellence. So you see a lot more excellence because they rise to that new standard that is expected of them,
Yeah.
while our kids are willing to be okay at the subpar standard, and we're fine with that because they're cats and they're happy. You want them to be happy, but you also want them to compete with everyone around the world, that they can have their reading scores could be up there, their math, their science, their intelligence can match up with people from around the world, so they can compete for jobs around the world, because not every job is local.
Right.
Some jobs you're going to compete with people all over this beautiful world. And if you can't be able to, if you're not able to work hard and get to that point with them, you're going to lose every time. So, yeah, never mind if they ever came to try to invade us and we're just kitty cats. But we can compete with them even on an intellectual or business world, acumen, if we're going to act like that, because we're okay with being down here and letting them work, and letting those countries work their butts off and get that high position because they've earned it.
Well, that's the thing too. You watch. We go back to the NBA, we don't have the best players playing on the USA team. So you look at, well, how are other countries playing better than the NBA sometimes? How are they beating these Team USA? How can they do that?
Well, they can actually shoot a basketball. They don't just dump the basketball.
Because you have your fourth alternate player playing in the game, and then you have your load management guys that just can't do it. It used to be pride to play for America. But folks, if I'm offending you by giving you common sense this morning, I'm not sorry about that, okay? I'm allowed to have an opinion. And
you've hurt the feelings, Dan. You will have to send them an apology note.
No, they're not. No one's getting an apology from me talking to you about real life versus made up life. And if you are a parent, listen, you're the adult. You decided to do that really fun thing that makes kids, but now for the rest of your life, you have a child, okay? So if you wanted to just do the hoop-de-doo review, but you didn't want to have the baby part of it, okay, then put them up for adoption. But you did the bang, bang, wang, wang, and now you have a child, and now that you have this kid, okay, you're an adult, they're a child. They don't know it if you don't teach it to them. So when I see kids that don't work hard, that don't care, that have no idea what reality is, that cry and scream when they're grown people and think they're going to get their way, I look to mommy and daddy, or lack thereof, and I say, we got here because of you. We did not get here. This was okay, children are taught to love or hate. When a child is little and they're at a playground, they'll play with anybody unless that person pushes them down or is mean to them. They'll play with black, white, blue, brown. They don't care what religion you are. They don't know anything. They're just sitting there going, I'm in a sandbox. You're in a sandbox. Let's play in the sandbox together. We teach children what to believe in or not to believe in. Okay. So I blame adults for the society we live in today, which is ironic because you raise these children to not care, to not work hard, to all think you get a trophy, to think you win all the time and you can never lose, to teach them no adversity, which is the only way you find out who you really are. And then you throw them into the world and make it our problem. And then we go to Target and they don't want to help us. And we go to the grocery store and there's nobody working. And we go to the movie theater and they're on their cell phone and they could care less if we miss our movie. And we go to get our car washed and there's 5 bays, but only one of them open because 9 people didn't show up to work because they don't think they have to. So you created this society, and on a sports level of that society, the babying and the coddling and the you can do no wrong and you don't have to try, that's created load management. So let's change it up. Let's get back to normalcy. And let's remember, there was a world way back when where you had to walk to school, you had to figure it out in the library, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have transportation, you had parents working all day, so you had to get yourself to school, and if you didn't get yourself to school in the snow, you were getting slapped when you came back home. There was a time where we taught people how to be, and I'm not saying hit your kids, there was a time where we were taught how to be strong, how to deal with life. The fact that we are living in a society that looks more like a video game or like Fortnite, we look more fake than we look real.
I've been around
now,
as a
and
parent.
that's the fault of adults.
How some of these kids talk to their parents. The kid will act like they're in charge and yell and reprimand their parents in front of other parents, in front of the kids, like they're the boss, and that the parents are just lucky to be the presence of this golden child. So as much as I love my kids and love being around kids and coaching kids, I find it ludicrous that you see a lot of kids now who feel like they're in charge and boss around their parents and treat them like garbage and expect them to drop a dime, on a dime, whatever they're doing, no matter how important it is, do whatever they can for these kids, when the kids sometimes will treat the parents like garbage. But a lot of times it's also because the parents have raised their kids to think that this is allowed, this is acceptable behavior. And again, I point to what happens the first time in real life as an adult. They face failure for the first time in life. And it's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen multiple times. And they never had to deal with that, or have to deal with heartache as a kid, and never have to deal with any form of losing. They never keep score. It happens as an adult. When Johnny's 25 years old and he loses his job, something bad happens, someone gets sick in his life, and bad stuff starts to happen. What does he do now? Because he has no coping skills to actually adapt and overcome in his life, and to be able to do anything, because he's just going to want to be in a fetal position crying his eyes out, which I can understand. But you need to be able to then push back and get up and keep moving so you can have a successful life. And if you weren't given those skills as a child, because that's not done anymore in most households, I don't know how they're going to be able to overcome any obstacles when the first bad thing happens, because it's going to happen. Yeah. When that happens, what do? Because they're not prepared.
Right. Yeah. Life is going to happen, and none of these kids are going to be prepared.
And that happens in sports as well. That happens in amateur and amateur, collegiate, and pro sports. What happens when the first time like an injury happens? Like if Pat Mahomes, he tore his ACL, and he had never had to overcome adversity. What is he going to do? Instead, he got surgery the very next day, or Bo Nix got surgery the very next day when he broke his ankle, couldn't play the championship game. That's probably why Drake Maye had a great season with the Patriots. But if Bo Nix is healthy and there's not a blizzard at the end of the game, the Broncos probably would have won that game. Probably would have won that game even with the backup. But with Bo Nix, I think the Broncos win yesterday. But they overcome an injury, they overcome obstacles. They're men of faith, and then they bounce back, get surgery the next day, and they're rehabbing because they're determined. Bo Nix said they say 12 weeks will be healthy enough to start working out and playing. And Pat Mahomes says, I'm playing week 1 of the NFL season, even though it'll only be like 8 months after I tore my ACL. He's like, screw that. I'm going to speed up the recovery. I don't need a year. I'll be ready for week 1 of the NFL season. Yeah. So they face adversity, and they're overcoming it, and they're pushing through. But a lot of people in regular life and in sports, they face adversity for the first time. They're not going to be able to have any coping skills to actually battle back.
Yeah. And that, again, it's on the fault of the parents. I mean, what is your hope? That you're going to be dead by the time that your child can't figure out life? You're going to be here to see them not know what the hell to do. And by the way,
that's heartbreaking.
The fact that college campuses have children on their campuses that are between the ages of 17 to 20, whatever, that when somebody disagrees with you, you scream in their face and you cry. It's what a 4-year-old does.
Well, they have the thing called safe spaces that they want safe spaces.
Well, and they give them a day off. Yeah. If the person that won the presidency is not the one you voted for, you can take a self-help personal day to cope with dealing with the fact that you're struggling right now. What the hell does that have to do with you? So I could do that every day. I'm not fond of Disney right now. I don't think that they're being run the way that they were supposed to be run, or that what Walt Disney wanted to do. So can I take a personal day from my job because I think that they've gone in the wrong direction, and that they're selling sex to children in the middle of movies, that they're talking about orgies in the middle of Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'm there with you and my niece and my nephew? Like, I mean,
Let's be honest. So that movie was just a piece of garbage. That movie was bad. So it doesn't matter what they were selling.
Like that movie
is an atrocious film, and they even found a way to waste Christian Bale as a scary villain, as great of an actor he is. That movie was just an abomination.
All I can say
so nothing was going to save that movie.
All I can say is thank goodness that Lorelai and LJ were paying zero attention to that movie. So
yeah, I think my son, well, LJ was only 2 years old. He was running up and down the aisle. He didn't care. And my daughter was just enjoying popcorn and stuffing M&Ms in her mouth, so she had no interest, so she didn't mind. I think they even had their they were borrowing my phone playing a game during the movie just so they wouldn't scream and disturb and disrupt the movie for other people who were watching it. But probably those people would have been very thankful to us if we would have disrupted their movie experience, because that movie was a piece of garbage.
Yeah, that oh man, that movie was something. That was something. That was something. But again, people just pushing these things in life.
I have hopes. I have hopes that my son's very excited for the new Avengers movie, Doomsday. We're hoping that, and Secret Wars the next year. We hope that they get back on the right track, and the new Spider-Man, brand new Day movie this summer. We're hoping they start to get back on the right track with some of these good movies. And speaking of that, this Wednesday looks interesting. They got that Wonder Man show on Disney Plus. That looks like a good, like kind of like a bromance with Ben Kingsley, the silly pretend bad guy in Iron Man 3. Who's really an actor, Trevor or whatever he calls himself.
Trevor Slattery.
That looks pretty funny. Yeah, that looks pretty funny. So like,
by the way, Trevor Slattery doesn't take a day off, just so you know.
No, he's a dedicated, committed actor. I still was blown away by that weird twist in Iron Man 3, that you think he's the big bad guy in the movie, and it turns out he's just like a fancy actor who's just pretending, and it's all like for pomp and circumstance on a green screen. But that at least looks promising. So I'm hoping we have some good Marvel stuff between Wonder Man show and the new superhero movies coming up. My son has high hopes that we have some good things to look forward to.
Yeah, as we wonder what a man is in today's society, Wonder Man will be coming up this week. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, we will talk about college football, NIL, portal, and tampering, and why I think Dabo Swinney he's done a lot of things that I appreciate and that I like. Love his faith in God and how he talks about it, but why I think Dabo Swinney is at a place right now where he is using his voice to say either we make a change or we never have the same thing again, and why I'm totally okay with Dabo going out there and sticking up for things, just like I'm sticking up for things this morning. We got to point it out, folks, or else we end up in a society of kittens. We'll be back after this. And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. We want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. You can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, everyone in the world's going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. We have a delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, and you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Kaz location, and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point, because you get a little something different at each one. We understand how hard it is to, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad, despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here. We just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening the doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people, that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing, and so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
Here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day. Hope you're staying warm today. It is frigid outside. I want to look at the weather. I looked at it before.
How much snow did you get in the Syracuse area? We had about a foot of snow here in Dallas, Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania. We've gotten spoiled because the last few years, even though we still have virtual school days like we have one today, but there's a lot of snow out there today, we've only had like a few inches of snow here, a lot of little snowstorms, but they still let them have virtual days to be safe because they're afraid, liability, whatever, bus issues or whatever. But how much snow did you get here? Because like for us, we haven't had this large of snow in a while. I think the last time we had a big snowstorm was the blizzard in 2017, March, the week before spring, middle of March of 2017. We were pregnant with our first kid, Lorelai, who's now going to be 9 years old this July. It's flown by almost a decade later. So it seems like once every 10 years we get a big snowstorm here in NEPA. But in Syracuse, it seems like drop of a hat. It's just a random Wednesday day of the week. Yeah. You get 6, 8 inches, a foot of snow, no big whoop. Same thing with Buffalo. How much do you think you guys got over there?
So I'm looking at right now. I wanted to see the numbers here. So we had, let's see, Albany 10.6, Binghamton 10.2, Rochester 8.3. Syracuse's official total for Sunday was 7.7.
Well, less than us even. Surprising.
Yeah, so but it kind of snowed like all day. It
did.
It snowed light, but it snowed all day, and it kept covering Like
Yeah.
you'd like go outside, do something, and it would cover it. But we're supposed to have today's supposed to feel like 1 at some point, 1 degree. But
Yeah, I saw somewhere
Yeah.
it's supposed to feel like negative 10 degrees where I live.
Yeah,
Where they're
so-
like it's a high of 6, it feels like about negative 10 out
these
there.
are our temperatures for this week for Syracuse.
Ridiculous.
High of 20, low of 10, high of 14, low of 8 on Tuesday. Then high of 16, low of 7, high of 14, low of 5, high of 9, low of 0, high of 10 or 16, low of 3, high of 17, low of 2. But with wind chill, that means we're going to be below 0. So it actually says that it feels like 6 degrees outside right now, but it's 17 because we have that wind chill factor that I've gotten to know here. We used to like have like toward the like it's funny, Marywood used to close school if there was like any type of snow, but they wouldn't do it.
There was a lot of people who lived on campus who could just walk to class. I had at least drive to class.
But they wouldn't do it for wind chill. Where like where Syracuse is like, if there was 2 feet of snow, they look at you, they look up and down your body and go, what are you, about 4'7"? There's 2 feet. You got 2 feet 7 inches over that. You better get yourself going. So like we would have to walk through it, but we would close because of wind chill. Because in Syracuse, which apparently hasn't gotten to Scranton yet, or maybe it did, but not when I went to school there, wind chill is dangerous, and you don't want children standing outside waiting for buses or being outside at all because of frostbite and all these things can happen. So I remember one day they didn't cancel class at Marywood because they only canceled it for a lot of snow, but they didn't understand wind chill. So I came out of the rotunda of the Liberal Arts Center, and I walked across the street to the middle area, the common area that used to be there. So I legitimately went outside and walked across the street. I was outside for like 3 minutes. I felt all of the nose hairs inside of my nose freeze while I was outside. And I was like, you know what? Scranton hasn't figured out yet. Wind chill is a dangerous thing. And so, but Syracuse would do that. We would have 2 feet of snow, go to school. Foot of snow, go to school. Hour delay, 2 hour delay. 7 inches,
well, that's what
8
they
inches,
do in
bad
Dallas.
roads, go to school. But if we had wind chill, they'd cancel school.
Yeah, we usually don't cancel because of cold weather, but at least where I am in Dallas, we get about 2 hour delays just so they hopefully warm up enough, even though it's still freezing at like 10:30 when we go off to the bus. But we did that last week, one of the days, day after Martin Luther King Day, last Tuesday we did that. It was like 5 degrees out, felt like -1 or whatever in the morning. But they were hoping 2 hours later by like 10:30, 10:40 when the bus came, it'd be a little warmer. It was like a balmy 15 degrees. So I guess get out your swimsuit and get ready to party here and drink your Coronas. So then we were allowed to go out because it was a little bit warmer. And they also had a chance for the bus to warm up because a lot of the buses then break down when it's super, super cold. So that's what they typically do. They don't cancel it if it's really cold usually. And even then, they don't make it a traditional snow. It's all virtual day now. But when I was going out, when I'd go to school in New York growing up in the city, you could just walk to the school. It was like a babysitting service because your parents were supposed to, a lot of your parents still had to go to work. They didn't work from home. And so then they needed somewhere for the kids to be so they'd be safe and not home alone by themselves. So no one's getting calling the cops or child services on them. We'd walk in like 2 feet of snow. I know it sounds like old school, like I'm saying back in my day. We'd walk in 2 feet of snow and all that. But we'd walk, and I'd be much smaller. So I'd sometimes get submerged and fall in the snow. I'd get up covered in snow, all wet and cold. And then we'd walk to the school. And then once we got there, it was pretty much a babysitting service. We'd do arts and crafts. We'd watch Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton, the original Beetlejuice with Michael Keaton. We'd watch Casper the Friendly Ghost, the Goofy movie with his son Max. We watched that a lot. Yeah. So we'd pretty much just watch movies and sit and chill. And it was a place where we thought the adults and the teachers and the students and the parents thought, oh, at least you can be safe, get out of the house, and the parents could go to work and you don't have to be bothered. So it was pretty much babysitting service. Now it's all virtual day. So typically, we just get the 2 hour delay if it's really cold. But usually if there's even like an inch or half inch of snow, they freak out and they make it a virtual day. So we don't get really any traditional snow days. You got to do your virtual assignments on your Chromebook. And then a few hours later, if you want, you can freeze your butt off and make some snowmen outside.
Yeah,
I miss the traditional snow days.
Yeah, I love how they
have fun playing the snow.
Yeah, I love how they call it.
But they don't want to push the school year back at all.
Right. But I mean, here's the thing. Okay.
But you only had a kid once. You might as well have some fun in the snow.
In my school, I'm going to call out CBA, and if they don't like it, whatever, because this was wrong. CBA used to make us go to school when everything else was canceled, and I don't know if it's because like it protected them or it helped them monetarily. I don't know what benefit they had, but they'd have us all go to school, go through all this snow, be freezing cold outside or a ton of snow or both. They'd make us go, and then at 10 o'clock, they'd be like, all right, you guys can... Like, we would literally get there, and then they wouldn't know, like, are we going to let you leave immediately?
Oh, the early dismissal. That's such a waste.
Yeah, so if my parents were working, I couldn't leave. I remember one time at Our Lady of Pompeii, they closed the school early, and I had to sit in the principal's office with the principal and hang out because my mom couldn't get to me, my dad couldn't get to me, and, like, they're both working, both doing their thing. So that's the whole thing about the early dismissal is if you make us come all the way to school, not all of our parents can come right back and pick us up. So let's not be stupid about that. And like CBA was notorious for doing a 2-hour delay. Like everybody's closed, and then we would look for like the other private schools. Like if Bishop Grimes and Bishop Ludden closed, then there were Manlius Pebble Hill. There was a good shot that we would close. Like they didn't care if Liverpool closed or if Baldwinsville or West Jenny, like they cared if like the other private Catholic schools closed. And if they closed, then we're like, okay, then it got to a point where Bishop Grimes would close, Ludden would close, and then CBA would go on a 1 to 2 hour delay. And I was like, why do you hate us? So there were times where I think I was the only one, like CBA was the only school open in central New York, and we were going to school. Now, granted, I got a fantastic education. It was like going to college in high school, and I love my teachers and I love my administrators, and I value so many things about my education at CBA. My only thing that I would say, hindsight 2020, is like you had to go up Sealy Hill for a lot of us to get to CBA. Sealy Hill is taller than some roller coasters. And there was always this thing about when you were driving up Sealy Hill and it was sunny out, 75 and dry, you wondered if you were going to make it. When it was icy out and snowing, you're like, oh, okay. I feel like it was kind of like accepting casualties. And so I remember saying to myself, looking at that hill, I'm like, all right, if I get halfway up and I start to slide, I'm not going to school today. And then on top of that hill, there's another hill that goes toward the school. And then you have to go up another hill. So I just remember thinking to myself, why would they make us go to school knowing that a lot of us have to like go up these really dangerous areas when it's snowy and icy just to get there? Like not all of us live around the corner, because when you go to a private school, you can come from anywhere. You could drive up from Binghamton if you wanted to, or come from Buffalo. So that was a difficult part. Loved my education, would have loved more snow days. And I just remember sitting here thinking to myself, going, why does everybody get to stay at home right now and I have to go to school? But
you never got to build the snowman, buddy. That's why you are the way you are now. You were traumatized, never got to have fun out in the snow, no sleigh riding. If you got to do these fun snow activities, who knows what the kind of person you would be, the life you'd be leading. Maybe this has led you to be this great sportscaster for all these years, for over 2 decades. Maybe you wouldn't have done that if you had that opportunity. But you never know. But
it made a man out of me. So
yeah. You could have been like the next president of the NCAA and clean up all of college sports as we segue to that. If you had a chance just to build a snowman, make Olaf, and get to live out your Frozen dreams.
Yeah, I still would love for the NCAA to hire me and let me put a team together. And we'll
be the commissioner of a committee or something that could not make it the Wild Wild West out there. There's some rules that are consistent.
Common sense, if my ex-wife is listening, is not uncommon. And the fact that
you definitely slept on the couch that night, for sure.
I don't care, because
I know now you don't care, but you 100% slept on the couch that night.
I knew our marriage was over when I slept in the other room, and I actually enjoyed it, and so did Lily. Yeah. So, like, Lily looked at her and she goes, "Are you ever going to sleep in the bed again?" And Lily just looked at her, and I was like, I think we're good here. I think we're all right. I said, the only thing I miss is that there's TV in that room. I was like, I might take the TV out, put it in this room. But besides that, I think I'm good. No, it wasn't a good marriage, but I do hope the best for her, and I hope she's doing well. So let's jump into, and I really do, I'm not just saying that to be like any type of backhand.
No, That is definitely just saying that.
No, I'm not just saying that. I really do hope she's happy, and I pray the best for her. And she gave me some really good advice in my life. We had some good moments. We had a lot of laughs. And, I can say that even though we weren't right for each other, I definitely feel like I became more of myself going through what we went through. I'm grateful that we had the time together that we had so that I could learn what not to do. I could learn what to do. I could learn how to be a better husband and a better man. And I could, learn how to take care of myself better. So if for nothing else, I appreciate the good advice that she gave me at times and the good moments that we had. And the fact that if I can love the wrong one the right way, then, there's a country song about that. Like, if I can give so much love to the wrong one, imagine what I could do for the right one. So, hoping for the future. With that being said, speaking of hopes for the future, the college football playoff has decided that they're going to stay for one more year, which essentially is just putting a Band-Aid as they buy time to figure out if they're going to go to 16 or 24. I had the opportunity to speak with college football playoff executive director, the head man of it all, Rich Clark, out in Miami, Florida, following the 2026 national championship game for the college football playoff between the Miami Hurricanes and Indiana Hoosiers. And as they were handing it off to Las Vegas, Nevada for the 2027 host site of the college football playoff national championship. In that conversation, we spoke about a lot of different things. You could see it on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. You could go straight to our college football playoff playlist on our YouTube channel and find almost 200 videos of our coverage of the CFP. You can also find my video with Rich Clark on Facebook at wakeupcalldt, X at calldt, and Instagram at wakeupcall_DT, where it is currently airing on my Instagram story, so you can check it out very easily on Instagram. And he said, listen, we have three choices. We stay at 12, we go to 16, or we go to 24. Those are the three. That was it. Everything that everybody was talking about, he gave clarity to, was very candid, very open, and I appreciate him for being
24 seems like way too much, buddy. Like
it's
16,
actually the only,
like,
but I
16
broke it.
seems okay. 24 seems way too much.
But the thing is, I broke it down, and it's the only one that makes sense. Because it actually kind of fits all, it gets rid of a lot of the complaints that would be coming through when it comes to the 10 FBS conferences, the at-large bids, Notre Dame. It's the only one that gives you more than enough where you actually probably don't even need 24. But
there will be
16 gives you more of the same.
There'll be like another Notre Dame who will be like, why did we get in? We're number 25, or we should have gotten in. They let the at-large bids over us. And I get James Madison and Tulane got destroyed in their two games. Their coaches were leaving, and they got destroyed.
But they scored, right? Did Texas Tech score?
No.
Where's Texas Tech from?
The Big Conference, yeah.
And the Big 12 had how many teams ranked in the top 25? Okay.
A lot.
All right.
So, no, but I know that's what a lot of people are like, oh, they didn't deserve their place because they got blown out, these little small schools.
And they were the number 4 seed. They had a bye through the first round.
I get they wanted to be like Cinderella March Madness with little engines that could, underdogs, Cinderella stories with the glass slipper. They could pull off upsets, be like the George Masons of the world, and be all these like teams that no one thought they'd have a chance. Loyola Marymount and all that stuff. They want to see upsets, and they want to see like a really cool tournament experience like college basketball has. But I don't know. I think 24 seems like too many. And I think 12 is good. I think 12 is fine. I'd be okay with them going up to 16. But I'm fine with it. But, yeah, they only put in a Band-Aid because they're going to still fight over this if they're just going to keep it at 12 for this year. And I also don't like how much power the major conferences. It sounds like the Big Ten is pushing for a lot of teams. I think they're the ones really pushing for the 24. And then the SEC wants a guaranteed amount of their teams in. Even if, let's say, they don't really deserve it. Let's say an SEC team loses 4 games or something like that. Or even Alabama. They were a good team, but they lost 3 games.
Yeah.
If anything, if Notre Dame, and I don't really think Notre Dame really got screwed over, but if they were going to get into the tournament and get in the college football playoff this year, it shouldn't have been over Miami or Texas A&M, who beat them head-to-head. Those teams deserved over Notre Dame. I would have said Notre Dame probably should have gotten in over Alabama. Alabama had 3 losses, looked bad, those losses late in the season, and Alabama really only got in because of the Alabama Crimson Tide, won a lot of national titles under Nick Saban. If anyone was Notre Dame was gonna leapfrog, it should have been Notre Dame over Alabama. But I don't think Miami and Texas.
I think they had a case over Oregon. honestly.
Possibly. I still would have thought, because Oregon, I think, only lost the one game to Indiana during the regular season.
They had a weak schedule, though.
They did, but remember that Penn State game, when they played it, was in Happy Valley with a whiteout game. Penn State was like the number 2 ranked team in the country. They thought Penn State was going to be a star-studded team with Drew Aller and the 2-star running backs. So at the time of that win, I know it looks like nothing now, that was against the number 2 ranked team in the country on the road in a whiteout with all the Penn State fans. So that was a big win at the time, double overtime. So Oregon, I still thought deserved over Notre Dame. I would have said Alabama was a mediocre SEC team who lost 3 games, and just because they're an SEC team didn't mean they deserved to get in. So SEC and Big Ten want to water it down. So that how important will it be that you got in the college football playoff if you're going to let 3 and 4 lost teams get in? Like, some of those teams don't deserve to get in just because they belong to a major conference. So if anything, I would have said Notre Dame deserved to get in over Alabama, because I think a lot of it, you're talking about mediocrity and letting people, kids, everyone get a trophy and really dumb down the standards. And we don't live up to and try to excel so we can compete in the real world against everyone around the world. That's what I think college, the football playoffs could become. If you expand it too much, you let all these teams in, you're going to have these really mediocre teams get in, and everyone will have a chance. It'll be an exciting tournament. I'll still watch the games, more games. It will kill the bowl system. No one's going to want to watch these bowl games. The bowl viewership's already going down because now you have teams like a Notre Dame who are like, we'll sit it out. If we don't make the playoff, it's not worth it. So it's going to pretty much be playoffs or nothing. The bowl games mean nothing, which is still means something to like seniors when this could be your last game, and the college experience of these fans and students and families going to watch their favorite team play. I like bowl games, but I also there's more at stake at the playoffs because it matters more who's going to advance, win a championship. If you let too much in, you're going to let a lot of mediocre teams get in, and it diminishes the regular season because how important it is, like a big regular season game is. They already said on the day of our wedding anniversary this upcoming year will be a rematch of the Big Ten Championship. You're going to have it in Bloomington, Indiana. National champion Indiana versus Ohio State. Should be a big game on October 17th, that Saturday in Indiana. Might not mean as much. It will be important at that moment, but in the grand scheme of things, won't mean as much if all these teams get in, and Indiana and Ohio State are going to get into the playoff either way. So I just want those games to mean more during the regular season, and I don't mind. I didn't like when it was only 2 with the BCS. That wasn't enough. Didn't like when it was only 4. That wasn't enough. I didn't think 4 was fair because you saw Florida State got screwed over when their quarterback got hurt and they were undefeated in a major conference. I think 12 is a good number, and I'd be willing for it to go up to 16, which I think is what they used to call it Division I AA. That's what their tournament was 16 teams. I think 16 would be fine to expand to 16 down the road. I think 24 is way too much. I don't think it's necessary. The season will go on way too long, which people already complain it's going on way too long. When it ends this year, January 19th, next year, the championship game in Vegas is not until January 25th. You're going almost into February. You're almost going into the Super Bowl, deep into the pro NFL playoffs, which people are already complaining that should end on New Year's Day to make it a big extravaganza. College sports, it starts to lose the flavor of college football when it goes on this far. I don't mind that much, but I think if we get close to February and you expand more playoff games, there's going to be a problem. And then you also mentioned I saw on your Facebook page last week, President Trump even said he's going to try to ensure that Army-Navy game still matters because he wants a window, exclusive window, that Army-Navy.
Yeah, because they've been putting bowl games on the same day, which is not right.
You don't want the bowl games. You don't want early college football playoffs when that expands. You don't want that to compete and take all the attention away from the great pageantry and patriotism of the great Army-Navy rivalry game, and that could happen. So I know President Trump, people love him, hate him, whatever, but this is one thing he's trying to do to keep that exclusive 4-hour window so they don't take the attention away from that great Army-Navy game, that tradition. Yeah. So I just think that I would love to hear your thoughts. 12 is good. 16 would be fine with me. To me, 24 starts to get to the point where they're even starting to do this in March Madness in college basketball, though people complain they still don't get in and get snubbed. It's starting to become too many teams, and you lose the interest of the regular season. You kind of tune out, and it makes it very watered down. Right now, it's like a big thing, and probably a big thing in college coaches' contracts. Oh, I got my team to the playoffs. If almost everyone gets in, it won't matter as much. It's going to be a watered-down field, and you're going to have some SEC Big Ten schools with 4 losses. Who knows, even 5 losses. They're going to let, if they have to let a certain amount of each of those big conferences get in, of those teams, you're going to have a very watered down field. And I think that hurts the tournament, and I don't think it's necessary. You could have the little mid-major, small teams like James Madison and Tulane, and you could have the big teams, but I don't think you need to elevate it to that much where the regular season's pointless and we're playing playoff games deep into February, competing with the Super Bowl, and it never ends, and you're having mediocre, 3-4 loss teams back when you used to need to only lose 1 or 2 games, or else you'd be done. You'd only have a bowl game to look forward. There was no playoffs for you.
Whether they stay at 12, go to 16, or go to 24, there's certain things that can never happen.
Yeah.
Notre Dame cannot get an automatic bid. They're not in a conference.
Which it seems like they're going to do because they're Notre Dame.
As long as they're ranked in the top. There was like a half an hour after the committee made its decision, ESPN was running on the ticker, and it looked like an apology. Oh, next year, because of the rules were changing, Notre Dame would have gotten in. It's going to be okay. It's like, stop. Stop pandering, okay? There's 2, and by the way, there's 2 independent schools. UConn, nobody talks about. They're totally left to pasture. They have no representation. The representation in the College Football Playoff Management Committee are the 10 FBS commissioners and the athletic director of Notre Dame. What about the athletic director of UConn? Not even involved. Not even a part of it. And a few years ago, there was like 7 to 9 teams that were independent. Now there's only 2, and that's UConn and Notre Dame. Notre Dame can do whatever they want to do. Whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. And this is the thing. This is what I find funny. The college football playoff can nix this thing real quick. Nip it in the bud. This is all you got to do. I've been saying this for years. Now I hear other people saying it. They tell Notre Dame and UConn and whoever else was ever independent, they just say to you very clearly, if you are not a member of a conference, you can't qualify.
Yeah, you're ineligible.
Can't qualify for the college football playoff unless you're a member of a conference. Somebody said, oh, they're never going to do that. And I said, why? They're like, well, because Notre Dame wants to make all the money. I said, this got nothing to do with Notre Dame wanting to make all the money. This is college football playoff. College football playoff is not making the money that Notre Dame is making.
They should do it, but they're probably afraid Notre Dame will sue them and destroy them.
I don't care. What are they going to sue? Again,
it's conference or nothing.
Right.
Or you're ineligible.
Again, going
I
back
think Notre
to
Dame
the
would join a
society,
conference.
Going back to the society we live in.
Yeah.
If you allow people to do whatever they want, you will now have a society of people that dress up like squirrels and chase each other in the park and want to be treated as equal to a human being when they are. Like, think about this. When a squirrel sees a person dressed as a squirrel, that squirrel is now more that squirrel is now more intelligent than that human being. That squirrel, who may do nothing else the rest of the day than to go find. By the way, if they spend all day long going and finding nuts and bringing them back and stocking their food pile, guess what? They're smarter than that human being dressed as a squirrel, because that squirrel that's going and getting the nuts, they're not waiting for somebody to bring them the nuts. They're not thinking that someone's going to do it. They're not wishing and hoping that somebody does it. They're going and doing the work, and they're
self-starters like you, buddy. When you started your own own TV and broadcasting empire,
so
they're self-starters. They're entrepreneurs.
I'd rather hang out with the squirrel that's going and putting the work in than hang out the person dressed as a squirrel. But here's the thing:
one thing before I forget with Notre Dame is they have stood up to Notre Dame before. The 2020 COVID season, they forced them for temporarily to join the ACC conference, which all the other Notre Dame athletic programs, the basketball team, the swim team, volleyball, they're all part of the ACC.
They're all in it, yeah.
They all fine with that, but football, they want to be independent, pocket all their money with NBC and all that, and Peacock and all that exclusive rights. They don't have to pay for anything. Get the college football playoff, they get to keep all the money. Notre Dame in 2020 during the COVID year had to join the ACC in order to be part of the college football playoff. They were forced to do it. They got to be in the college football playoff. They got blown out in the college football playoff, but they had to join forces with the ACC for 1 year. But as soon as the COVID year was over, they let them go back to do whatever they want because they're high and almighty Notre Dame. Yeah. So it's happened before. They forced them before. Why not do it again? Make them join a conference, or you're ineligible. You don't get the chance to even complain and whine that you didn't get the playoffs. Yeah. You know going to the year, you're not going to the playoffs unless you join a conference. If you stood your ground on that, Notre Dame would join a conference in 2 seconds. They would join the ACC or the Big Ten in 2 seconds.
Again, Notre Dame is an example of what happens when you allow someone to stomp their foot and act like a child. And Notre Dame acted like a child in this bowl season. And I spoke with the bowl season executive director that oversees all of the bowls, and he didn't mince words about how he felt about the Notre Dame
They
situation.
should have fined him. I think they should have fined the money.
Well,
They should have fined him.
here's the thing. Anytime you have an emotional feeling towards something, you are taught, or you should be taught,
give it a day or two to think it
to
over.
breathe.
Yeah.
To take a deep breath, take a step back, think about it, sleep on it, then make a decision. The athletic director of Notre Dame went out in public, lost his mind, and attacked the ACC. And if I'm the ACC, I would say, let's be real. Your basketball teams aren't great. No. Your other teams aren't doing anything for us Olympically most of the time. And we don't have your big moneymaker. So how about this? You went outside and had word diarrhea, and now you can go look for a conference. You're not part of the ACC anymore.
They did irreparable damage. The ACC and ESPN, who wanted them to do the Pop-Tart Bowl with BYU, that ESPN just wanted to make a lot of money. They didn't want to give ESPN that satisfaction.
Notre Dame makes money off the bowl game, too.
They do, but Notre Dame's like, oh, we give you such a large rating, ESPN. We don't want to give you that satisfaction.
Guess what? The ratings were more than fine without you, Notre Dame.
They were. And then ACC, the athletic director flat out said, oh, you've caused irreparable damage, pretty much threatening the ACC. We might have to leave you in all sports. And ACC should say, get lost. Good luck. Because Notre Dame got to do whatever they want. And then right after that, he pretty much bragged on the Dan Patrick show. The athletic director of Notre Dame's like, it won't matter next year because as long as we're top 12 and we get to pick our crappy schedule with easy opponents, we're getting in next year no matter what because of the rule change. So he laughed at them saying, oh, we're annoyed now, but we're going to get in because we've rigged the system so we can get in the bowl game, the playoffs next year, and you have nothing to do about it. And he bragged on national TV on the Dan Patrick show that that's okay because he was so upset that that's allowed. That you're allowed to act
again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, if you stomp your foot and you cry as a grown human being and you get your way, you want to know why society crumbles. Whether it's 12, 16, or 24, the whole point of having a postseason, I just did a Trump thing there. The whole point of having... No, I took something that was a little bit small and I made it bigger. I made it very big, very large, huge, bigly. But no, I mean, the reality of it all is no matter what the size is, 12, 16, or 24, every season, everybody starts 0-0. Every conference starts 0-0. Every institution starts 0-0. If you create a system where you say, okay, we got 12, but Notre Dame gets an automatic bid for having a pulse.
There's really only 11 spots left.
We have 16, but, you know, the SEC is going to get 5 no matter what, and the Big Ten is going to get 4, so then you really only have 7 spots.
That's my other problem, though, is how much influence and power these big conferences have, especially Big Ten and SEC. I know they're the two big boys. Big Ten now has won 3 straight national championships in football between Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana. SEC actually has not played in the national championship game in these last 3 years. As big and mighty as they are, they've kind of been embarrassed a little bit. They're a little upset with how much they claim they're spoiled grapes, that Big Ten is rigging the NIL and they're buying all these older players and star players. Yeah. They've been shut out of that championship game. They get in the playoff, but they haven't been able to get the championship game these last 3 years that Big Ten has won it. Yeah. That how much power and influence these big conferences have, especially Big Ten and SEC. And they're going to dictate to the NCAA. You know, the NCAA should be one dictating to the big conferences. They should have a say, but not have the 100% influence on the NCAA to say, oh, we're going to get 5 teams in no matter what. Even if that team's lost 5 games, you're going to have to take our 5th worst team in the Big Ten and 5th worst team in the SEC. We don't care. They're getting in. They should not be able to dictate the rules to the NCAA. It should be the other way around.
This is the thing.
The NCAA should be able to dictate the rules to the institution and the conference.
But the NCAA doesn't do anything. NCAA.
I know, because it's a Wild West. They don't know what they're doing. And the NIL, the eligibility rules for guys playing for 10 years is nuts.
They have no control.
Yeah.
NCAA has no... Okay.
Get some adults in the room and a committee who can have some control. And
have somebody that has a backbone.
Some rules.
Have somebody that looks at Notre Dame and goes, hey, guess what? If you're not in a conference, you don't qualify. And for people to say to me, well, they would never do that because Notre Dame wants to make all their money in the TV... That's not even a proper argument. If the college football playoff tells Notre Dame you can't qualify if you're not in the conference, that has nothing to do with Notre Dame and their money. If Notre Dame wants to keep their money and not join a conference, then they cannot play in the college football playoff.
Enjoy the Pop-Tart Bowl next year.
But the college football playoff has nothing to do with Notre Dame, Notre Dame's bank account, or any of that information. The problem with Notre Dame is they get to keep 100% of when they go to the college football playoff, and nothing goes to the conference. So they lose money by not getting in. But here's the funny thing. Win your games, and there's nothing to say, Notre Dame. You played 2 ranked teams all year long. That shows how good your schedule was. You played 2 ranked teams all year long, and you got spanked by them both. Well, we only lost by 1, Dan. I don't care. Germany might have lost by 1 soldier, but we're not speaking German. So
why not? It was the first 2 games of the season. Miami was on the road in Miami. First game of the season with a new starting quarterback. He's learning the system.
But you know what they said? You can't blame us. You can't blame us.
Excuse after excuse. That's all it is.
Right. And here's the thing. If Notre Dame beat Miami, then Notre Dame wouldn't be saying that what they
would have counted that win if they would have won.
If Miami beats Notre Dame at the beginning of the season, you say, you can't judge us on the first 2 weeks. We went 10-0 after that. But if they beat Miami, they could say you can judge us on the first 2 weeks because we beat Miami. So that's what I tell people all the time. Don't ever make an argument unless you're willing to flip it for the other person.
It's hypocritical. They get thrown right back in and they have no real answer to it.
And I check myself when I do that. When I say Indiana had an easy schedule in the regular season, and somebody comes up to me and goes, well, didn't North Texas have an easy schedule? And I can turn around and go, well, North Texas played 3 ranked teams and Indiana played 1.
Yeah, but I'll give Indiana credit because on a show a couple months ago, I talked trash about Indiana that they beat no one. They only beat Oregon, barely beat Oregon early in the year on the road. And that was it. They played a crappy schedule. They played some cupcake crappy schools. But when push came to shove, at the end of their season, they proved they belong and they're the legit champions. They went 16-0. They beat the defending Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Yeah. They destroyed Alabama in the Rose Bowl. They smacked them around. They crushed Dante Moore in Oregon in the semifinals. And then they won a close, hard-fought game on the road where the national title game was played at their home field for Miami. Went into Miami with Michael Irvin, all the big Miami alums, Ray Lewis, going nuts. They beat Miami 27-21. So even though they played a pretty easy schedule throughout the year, last year and this year, and I talk crap about them on the show, I'm the first one to admit I got it wrong because, yes, their schedule was not that hard. But when push came to shove, Kurt Signetti and Fernando Mendoza and those great guys in Indiana and Bloomington, they got it done. They showed they could beat ranked teams left and right because they beat Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, and Miami, and they did it mostly convincingly in blowouts. They showed they were the dominant team in college football. So I will admit when I get it wrong because I thought because their easy schedule, they're going to get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, which happened the year before when the last time, Notre Dame fans also want to brag about this, last time Indiana lost the game was against the first round of the college football playoff last year when Notre Dame was at home and beat Indiana. Put that on a banner, Notre Dame, if you're that proud, because you haven't won a national title in almost 40 years. It's been 4 decades. But
they also didn't face Fernando Mendoza.
No, because he was at Cal. So brag that you're the last team to beat Coach Signetti in Indiana over a year ago. But when I'm the first one to admit, I got it wrong. They did face an easy schedule throughout the year. I still stick to my guns on that. But Indiana, with push came to shove, they were ready. Kudos to Indiana, the fans, the players, Coach Signetti turning them around in these last 2 years. They beat the crap out of these teams in the playoffs, and they got it done. And they're deserving national champs, no doubt about it. 16-0, perfect season for the first time in over 130 years. So I'm the first one to admit when I get it wrong, and Indiana proved everyone wrong.
Well, and here's the thing. You weren't wrong that they had an easy schedule in the regular season because they did.
And I just didn't know if they'd be ready to compete in the playoffs against the big boys, and they did.
I said, beat a Tier 1 team, and you'll have something to say.
Yeah.
And they beat Ohio State, and I said, okay. And I gave them respect for that. And I gave them respect for the Oregon and the Iowa wins on the road. Outside of that, they played a weak schedule. They did. Their last 4 games in the regular season, the combined record
they barely
of Big
beat
Ten
Penn
opponents
State, was a train wreck throughout the year. They beat them at the very end of this year. So that was another game where they barely won that game. So Indiana looked like they could be beat, but they rallied the troops and they were ready for this great playoff run. So you got to give it up to them. It still doesn't the schedule still was easy, but they got it done when it mattered most in the playoffs
Right.
against the big boy schools.
Like, facts are facts. The last 4 teams they played in the Big Ten had a combined record of 1-17. Some of them were winless. Some of them stayed winless. So they had an easy schedule outside of at Oregon and at Iowa. That was not the same Penn State team. I don't care what anybody says.
Early in the year, Penn State was a great team, but they were free-falling by that point.
So,
but then Terry Smith, their interim coach, who's now their assistant under Matt Campbell, he rallied their troops, and he got them to win the rest of their games of the year. And even we talk about Dabo Swinney with the tampering allegations against Coach Golden and Ole Miss. They beat Dabo Swinney at Yankee Stadium in the Pinstripe Bowl against Clemson. So Penn State finished strong, but that middle part of the season, Penn State was on a 6-game losing streak, and Indiana had a hard time in Happy Valley on the road at Beaver Stadium. They barely won that game.
Right. So, we're not wrong with saying they had an easy schedule for the most part in the regular season, because they did. And facts state that. And I gave them credit where credit was due, and I picked them to win all of their games in the college football playoff. I picked them. I picked Miami to win all of their games.
I was very confident Indiana, even on the road, and a lot of people picking Miami. And even Coach Nick Saban, a lot of the experts picked Miami to win at home in that championship game. I was very confident that Indiana had come this far, not for Coach Ignetti and Mendoza to lay an egg in the national championship game. It was going to be a hard fight, and it was. Miami came back and made it real tough in the second half, but I was very confident Indiana was going to finish this Cinderella story and cap it with a national title with the perfect 16-0 season. I'm like, they didn't come this far to lay an egg and embarrass themselves in the championship game just because the game's on the road in Miami. Well, remember, Mendoza is from Miami, and Miami had a chance to recruit him out of high school and out of the portal is when he left Cal. Miami could have had him. Miami turned him down multiple times, said, "Oh, you're not good enough." And instead, they went for Carson Beck and they went for other quarterbacks. So Mendoza had probably a chip on his shoulder, even as a guy who is very spiritual, very much honors God all the time. I'm sure he had a chip on his shoulder that Miami, his hometown school, denied him multiple times, and now he had a chance to go into Miami on their home field and knock them out in the championship game. With a lot of people picking Miami, I'm sure that gave him a great satisfaction that Mendoza was able to prove them wrong once again after they didn't want him to be part of their program when he was a Miami kid. He'd love to have played at Miami.
Yeah. So, I mean, Indiana, and I picked Indiana to win the games that they won. I picked Miami to win the games that they won. At the end of the road, I was 51% Indiana, 49% Miami, so I went with Indiana, and they won that championship game. Getting back to the college football playoff, 12, 16, or 24, whatever it becomes, the one thing that they cannot do is you cannot allow an automatic bid to an independent school just for showing up. You also, whether it's Notre Dame or whoever, the other thing that you cannot do is you cannot allow a conference to have a declared number of spots. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is happening. It's happening with Notre Dame because there is this fear with Notre Dame that like everybody owes them something because they've allowed them to function with their own rules inside of the rules that everybody else has to do. Notre Dame is on an island where they don't have to. They're never going to be punished for having a conference that doesn't perform. They're never going to be boosted because of a conference that did well, but then they can argue that the ACC is better and we did. I mean, their best win this season was against Pitt. And so you have this national narrative that the ACC is garbage, which I disagree with, and I have disagreed with multiple times and given factual evidence as to why. But that was their best win.
And they beat USC, but USC was only a pretty mediocre team.
USC
they were
and they didn't beat anybody.
They were like the 15th ranked team in the country. They were not a great team. They were okay, USC.
USC lost to Illinois. They lost
Pitt and USC are really their only two decent wins, and they both were schools that barely were in the top 25, and they were not really playoff contenders. Their two teams that made the playoffs were the two teams they started the year off. They were close games, but they still lost them. And games matter whether it be the beginning of the year or the end of the year. Nice, you won 10 games in a row. It counts those first two losses.
It's funny because the argument against Alabama was they lost their first game of the season to Florida State. So how is Notre Dame saying don't punish us for losing at the beginning of the year, but punish Alabama and let us in over them for losing at the beginning of the year?
And Florida State ended up being a bad team this past year. Yeah, but Alabama got crushed in that game.
So, I mean, the reality of it all is simply this. Whatever happens with the college football playoff, what we cannot afford to do is give special treatment to anybody. Because if you do that, then it's not a playoff. It's not a postseason. It's a country club. And if it's not going to change every year based on talent, based on that individual year and wins and losses, if it's not based on how you play that year, then it doesn't matter. If Notre Dame gets in every year just for breathing, then the college football playoff has no validity. If every year the SEC gets 4 or 5 schools and the Big Ten gets 4 or 5 schools and the ACC and the Big 12 and the Conference USA and the New Pac and the Mountain West and the Sun Belt and the American and the MAC get whatever's left, then there's no point in doing it. You cannot create a postseason. Think about it. What if Major League Baseball said, hey, every year
Yankees are automatically
the Yankees and the Dodgers are going to get in, and we're going to take another team from the NL West and another team from the AL East. So every year there's going to be the Yankees and the Dodgers are in every year no matter what.
Yeah,
then we're going to hold a spot for the American League East. We're going to hold a spot for the NL West. So of all of the spots that are available in Major League Baseball, we're going to take 4 off the table every year. We're going to take almost half the field off the table just to appease this. What they're saying, Ross, is what I predicted over 3 years ago. The SEC has the ability to leave the NCAA and form their own entity, their own league. The Big Ten made the moves of bringing in the 4 West Coast schools in order for them to be able to leave with the SEC and be enticing enough to the SEC. And Notre Dame could leave with them because Notre Dame can do whatever the hell it wants to do. So the reality of it all is, if the college football playoff, and we heard this when they were talking about potentially going to 14, that there would only be 2 teams that would have a bye every year, and that the SEC and the Big Ten would have those byes every year, regardless of record, regardless of ranking, regardless of how any other conference does. The SEC and the Big Ten would be the only teams, or the only conferences that would be allowed a bye, which would be bias. And the biasness of this right now is stating my case that I predicted years ago. Because the SEC is autonomous, because the Big Ten is autonomous, and there's a reason why you pick a legislative term. Power is a media fabricated term. Autonomy is the legislative term that the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the SEC live under. They are the autonomy group, which by definition means self-governing, which also means, in my opinion, and I spoke with the ACC former commissioner John Swafford about this, that they are living within the NCAA, but at any given time can leave because they've already stated to the NCAA, we live under your governance, but we are our own government. So we're a government within your government that doesn't need your government, and if you lose us, you lose the money, and you probably cannot sustain yourself.
But that's ridiculous. They have 1 foot out the door to leave the relationship,
right?
And then they're going to start their own league. So what will happen in the NCAA? There won't be legit college sports if your major conferences are always going to put like a gun to their head and threaten the NCAA, saying that we'll leave at any moment. So you have to either do what they say because you're holding them hostage, or else you lose them. And then if you say get lost, then NCAA becomes meaningless because they become their own thing. And though SEC, Big Ten, Notre Dame do their own thing, that's what the people will focus on. And the rest of the schools, what does that become? It's going to be like a Pop Warner Pee Wee football league that no one's going to care about. Yeah, the rest of the schools are going to crumble. So they need them. So pretty much they have an anvil over their head. They're holding them hostage, and they have to do what they're told, the NCAA, or else they risk losing them, and then the whole system collapses. So pretty much they have a monopoly, and they can get whatever they want. So if they want 24, if they want 100 teams, they can probably get what they want. We'll be playing into April and May for all people they care, because if they want it, they'll get it because they don't want to risk losing them and having this whole system blow up. That makes a lot of people money from all sides.
Right, but that's the thing. This is where
that's wrong. That's messed up.
Right, and this is where the Big 12 and the ACC that are part of that autonomy group have a right of saying, well, if you get 4, we get 4. If you get 9, we get 9. If you get 6, we get 6. If you get a bye, we get a bye. So now,
where does that end? How many teams do we come up with?
But again, you create the postseason where everybody starts 0-0. Yeah. And whatever narrative the media has, the media narratives have been proven wrong numerous times. The media narrative about the ACC in football and basketball has been proven wrong. Miami's proved it wrong by themselves in football and basketball in the last decade, in the last 5 years. Just Miami has proven it wrong in the ACC. The American has proven it wrong in a lot of ways. There's the reality that the SEC, okay, the 3 best records in the bowl season, including the college football playoff this year, were the Big Ten, the ACC, and the American. Those were your 3 best. The SEC had a losing record overall. They did not play in the championship game. So when you look at, and I don't know why I have to say this, but again, we've spent this entire morning talking about common sense being uncommon for some reason. You cannot give preferential treatment to a conference or a school if you want to have a genuine postseason. Your season is based on your win-loss record, how many wins you have, how many losses you have, who you beat. All of that matters. And then you look to the rankings, and the rankings are supposed to not be based on narratives, but based on output. It doesn't matter if Rudy was a good movie. It doesn't matter if your team was really good 115 years ago. It doesn't matter if your schedule looks good on paper. It doesn't matter if your conference has won the last 3 years. The reality of it all is everybody starts at 0-0. We see who you play. We see who you beat. We see who you lose to. We look at head-to-head matchup. What did the college football say? They look at head-to-head matchup. They look at availability of players and coaches, like did they leave? Are they still there? There's a lot of things that go into making these decisions. So if you start giving conferences a certain amount of bids no matter how they finish, well, then the SEC knows we can lose 5 games and still get in. We know we can lose 3 games and still get in. We know we don't have to be even ranked or ranked that high and still get in. The Big Ten knows they can continue to play an easy schedule, which a lot of them play. The Big Ten is top heavy. There's 18 schools in the Big Ten, and 3 of them are good right now. So, and I'm talking about Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State in no specific order. So,
which is wild to think Indiana is on that list, because for many years, including just 2 years ago, they were 3-9. They were an awful team. And in these last 2 years under Coach Signetti, completely turned around. So let's see if they can keep that up with their recruiting and the NIL money. And Mark Cuban, the big Shark Tank guy, former Mavericks basketball owner, he's an Indiana alumni. He was on the field when they won the championship. He's pouring a lot of money into that program. And a lot of guys are whining and complaining. Oh, they got a lot of like older 24, 25-year-old guys on the team. It's not fair. They're playing within these crazy rules. And so far, Coach Signetti has dominated these 2 years as the coach of Indiana. But it's weird to think Indiana is one of those power schools. And for years, it was Penn State. Penn State was up there in that list. And maybe Matt Campbell will get them back to that level again. Coach Franklin, as much as he struggled to win big games, he had them winning about 10 games a year, even if it was an easy schedule. So maybe Penn State will get back up there. But it's crazy for me to think just 2 years ago, Indiana was pretty much a total existence, a horrible football program. It was only a basketball school with Bobby Knight, and they were 3-9 just 2 years ago. And Signetti has turned it around just like that. And now let's see if we can continue that dominance now without Mendoza and with the next group and crop of players who are showing up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we cannot. Everything's going back to what we were talking about, like everything's connecting.
Yeah.
We cannot start off a season putting rules together in a postseason saying, no matter what this conference does, they're glorified. No matter what this conference does, they're crap. Notre Dame can literally play, a church, a candy store, and, they can go play in a golf tournament and we'll still let them in.
Yep.
You cannot.
You gotta earn it. You gotta earn it.
But
cream rise to the top.
The whole point of having a playoff or having a postseason, the whole point of playing sports, is that everybody has an opportunity to learn through adversity, learn how to win with grace, learn how to lose with grace, learn how to learn from both, and to know that every year, no matter what happens, like Indiana won this year, but everybody woke up this morning of 136 FBS schools, and everybody's got a shot. That's the whole point of this, is that everybody has a shot. And if the college football playoff or any entity in the postseason starts saying, this conference is going to get this, could you imagine if the NFL said the NFC, no matter, like if they took the 14 playoff teams And instead of having 7 and 7, if the NFL said every year the NFC side is going to get 10 and the AFC is going to get 4, there'd be no reason in playing. So that is what we're talking about. That's how stupid it sounds. And if I have to break it down to people in that way to make you hear how ridiculous it is, that's reality. The Dodgers don't get in every year because
they have an advantage with their money.
Spot.
They have a leg up.
Right.
But they still have to win.
They still have to win. And
tournament.
guess what? 2023, when they had all the money and all this stuff and the great rotation
Diamondbacks
and all these fantastic people.
Them in the,
right.
Diamondbacks kicked their butt in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Diamondbacks were not going to beat them one game, right? Diamondbacks weren't going to be able to hang with them in game 1. So you can, whatever the college football playoff is, however many teams it has, you cannot declare spots for conferences. You cannot declare spots for schools, or else it loses. There's nothing to it every year. Then
not sport anymore. It's not a fair competition.
No, because then what it essentially does is it writes into legislation what's been happening in the background anyways, which is preferential treatment.
Well, because they've manipulated. Because then it's manipulation.
Right.
When it really should be, we both we go mano a mano. The best team will win, and we live on to play another day. It shouldn't be we're going to angle it so we can find a way to screw you over, get in the playoffs, win a championship, and not have to fully earn it because we're going to give them a full leg up there, and you're going to start at the bottom, so you have no chance to catch up with them. Well, make it fair where they go mano a mano, and the best team wins. Not where that team's automatically get in. It doesn't matter what they do, and then because then the competition's over, the sport is over, and we might as well not play. We might as well do an online AI simulation. Because at that point, it's a waste of our time. It's a waste of our Saturday and Sundays watching football, and it's a waste of the entire week us doing sports shows like this and fighting over the minutia over every detail about everything that fans love so much about the sport. We're wasting our time if we're just going to pretty much turn into a simulation because then the sport is gone. And sport's supposed to be fair, and that everyone has a chance to compete at pretty much a pretty even level.
Well, and you talk about playing meaningless games in the regular season. If the postseason of the college football playoff is already declared for, then the entire regular season is meaningless for more than half of America. Here's how 24 works, because I broke it down. This is how 24 works. This is how 24 works in fairness and in not. It works in being fair to the entire FBS while still taking the best teams. 24, there's 10 FBS conferences because the Pac is coming back. So there's 10 FBS conferences plus Notre Dame. This is how it works. Right now, you have 12. You have 5 automatic bids, which has already changed. They've already changed the rules to now protect the ACC and protect the Big 12. So the 12 that we had this year, the rules have been adjusted for this upcoming season. Notre Dame gets in if they're ranked in the top 12. So basically, that committee of 12 or 13 people in the college football playoff is going to get bombarded with phone calls and threats from Notre Dame to say, you better have us in the top 12 in the final week, because now the committee has sole discretion and sole power of where they rank Notre Dame, because they are going to control if Notre Dame gets in, if they're ranked in the top 12 or they're not. And the only people that can decide that are the 12 to 13 people in the college football playoff committee. So that's one rule that's changed, that as long as Notre Dame is ranked in the top 12, they get in. And that's because crybabies win in society sometimes, and that's why our society sucks in certain elements. Then there's this other side of it where they've now changed the rules of it's not the top 5 highest ranked conference champions of the 10 conferences. It is now the 4 autonomy conferences, whatever their record is, their conference champions automatically get in, and then one group of 6, which now will include the Pac, gets in. So now we know for a fact, in the current model of 12, there will never be somebody outside of the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, or the SEC, except for one school of those 6 conferences. So you're now taking over 60 teams off the table and just letting one of them in. And then you're giving the ACC champion, they could be 7-5 or 12-0, doesn't matter. The ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12, their conference champions get in. Notre Dame gets in if they're ranked in the top 12. And then you're going to take one group of 6, which leaves 6 at large, which is going to go the majority of the time to the SEC and the Big 10. This is why 24 works. take your 10 FBS champions, which means the regular season matters, conference play matters, and being a conference champion matters. Every one of the 10 FBS champions gets in. So the champion of the SEC gets in, the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Mountain West, the Pac-12, the Conference USA, the Sun Belt, the American, and who am I missing? And the MAC, if I didn't say the MAC. So they all get in. So there's your 10 conference champions. They all get in. So now you have 14 at large, which includes Notre Dame and everybody else that didn't win a conference championship because Notre Dame can't win one. So they shouldn't be provided a spot since they're not in a conference. So now you have 7, right now in the current model, you have 7 at-large teams. Going to 24 doubles your at-large, plus it respects your conference champions. And then they say, well, Dan, why would you let in the Sun Belt and the American? Look at how they played this year. Well, it has nothing to do with where they're going to be seated. So if they're in the 24, they could be the first games. We could have seen JMU play Tulane, which means at least one of them is going to win. 14 at large. If you looked at this season's final rankings and you go 14 at large, let's do this just for giggles, okay? If I take
BYU definitely gets in.
Yeah, so if I take the 10 conference champions, okay, so I'm just going to do this for giggles, and I'm going to pretend that the Pac is actually more schools than it is right now because we know that they're expanding this year, but they haven't expanded yet. So if we look at the final CFP rankings, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. So Indiana was a conference champion, so Indiana would get in. Duke would get in for the ACC. For Texas, Tech would get into the Big 12. And so that's 3 here. And then the SEC would have had Georgia get in, right? Because they beat Alabama. So you have those that get in. Then in the Sun Belt, you would have JMU would have gotten in. Tulane gets in from the American. And then your conference championships. So I want to go back to the schedule here. Your conference champion for, let's go back here in time a little bit to week 16 or week 15. Oh, no, I'm sorry, week 15. So we go back to week 15. So that means Tulane would have gotten in from the American. JMU would have gotten in from the Sun Belt. Kennesaw State would have gotten in from Conference USA. Boise State would have gotten in from the Mountain West. Indiana gets in from the Big 10. Georgia gets in from the SEC. Texas Tech gets in from the Big 12. Duke gets in from the ACC, and Western Michigan gets in from the MAC. So those are your 10. Now let's go to the final rankings for us to look at, just for giggles here, who else would have gotten in. Miami would have gotten in as an at-large. Ole Miss, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas A&M, so that's 5. Notre Dame is 6. BYU is 7. Keep in mind there's 14 that we have to find now. Texas, Oklahoma, Utah, that's 10. Vanderbilt, Virginia, Iowa, and USC. So when you really look at this, you say to yourself, who's left out? Michigan, Houston, Navy, North Texas, and TCU. And that's totally fine. I've argued that if you go to 16, it's just going to be more, it's going to be another spot for the SEC, another spot for the Big 10, a guaranteed spot for Notre Dame. It's not going to change anything.
I do like what you're saying that even the smaller conferences, they're not going to probably get at large bids most years, but at least
everybody gets in.
That your conference champion gets in. And even in the bigger conferences, it would be fair because, they lost a good amount of games this year. Like Duke won the ACC championship over Virginia, and Miami didn't even get to play in the ACC championship, but Miami got into the playoff and ended up going to the national title, almost won a championship. But Duke, even though they didn't have a great regular season, still won the conference championship in the ACC. It would be nice if you won the conference championship and you got an automatic bid to get into the playoffs. So then you had another chance, besides just playing in a bowl game, you had a second season to actually have a chance and maybe pull off upsets and find a way to win it all, that you automatically get in. So I like the idea if it goes to 24, now that you've described how it would go, that it respects conference championship games, that it matters. So if you win your conference title, you automatically get in, even if you are a Duke team that lost 4 or 5 games, rather than Duke ended up having to play in like the Frosted Flakes Sun Bowl or whatever it was on CBS on New Year's Day.
Tony the Tiger, baby.
They got to throw cereal over themselves. It was a fun time. But they want to.
It's better than It's better than the Bush's Boca Raton Bowl of beans, where you put beans inside of the trophy.
That, and then what about the mayo one, the Duke's mayo, and they have
Don't
poured
even.
mayonnaise
Don't
on
even.
it? That's disgusting.
Warm.
That makes me want to gag.
Like mayonnaise, I only use mayonnaise on tuna because if you don't, then tuna is like really like kind of chalky and it's hard to like eat. So mayonnaise is used minimally with me on tuna. Beyond
Not corn
that,
all over you.
mayonnaise is gross. The smell of it is gross. Everything about it is gross. I think this is how it should go. If you're in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, you should have mayonnaise poured on yourself if you lose. That's it.
Yeah.
It should be
I
for
think
the
Flavor
loser.
Flav popped up at the end, and he was pouring mayonnaise on people. That's what I saw on the winners. So I'm like, did they really win? You know, I get you got to meet Flavor
That's
Flav,
gross.
you won, but you got disgusting mayonnaise poured on you that's going to take forever to come out. But so yeah, they got to play in a bowl game where they threw cereal on each other, Duke. But it would have been nice, even though they didn't have the greatest regular season, they still earned that conference championship, so it respects that conference championship. It would respect James Madison, Tulane. If you win your conference championship, even if it's considered the quote-unquote smaller mid-major schools like in the NCAA tournament for basketball, March Madness, you get to get into the tournament. So I like that idea. That it's not just adding an insane amount of SEC and Big Ten schools at large. Yeah. More will get in, but you at least respect the conference champions, and you can still get the chance to Cinderella story that they get in, and then maybe if that smaller school can find a way to pull off an upset, unlikely, but maybe one of these years it can happen. Like when Boise State in that bowl game years ago beat Oklahoma and Adrian Peterson, and then that guy did the Statue of Liberty play and proposed to his fiance, cheerleader fiance, and all that. I remember that game from like 2007 when Boise State shocked the world and beat Oklahoma. Once in a while, you'll get an upset. So I do like that at least all the conference schools, including the small ones, that everyone's like, oh, they don't deserve to get in, that they'll at least automatically get in if they win their conference championship game.
Right, and the thing is as you saw me name the 14 at large, you get to the end and you're like, man, do these last couple teams, should they even be
I didn't
in
feel
it?
Bad when you said like Michigan, who didn't deserve to get in.
Right.
Once they lost to Ohio State, like I didn't feel bad Michigan didn't get in.
So to me, it's like it's in, and you think about it, when you take your conference champions plus 14 at large, I was getting to the bottom part of the top 25. Like you got almost the entire top 20, top 21.
I was about to say, like,
making it.
One of the last teams you mentioned, USC, I'm like, did they deserve to get in? Like, no, I don't know if they deserve
But that's the thing is, you create a system where 24 has so many at large that you almost, like, you could almost make it 22 or make it 20. They don't even have to do maybe that's the thing that they agree on. If part of them want 24 and part of them want 16, maybe they agree at 20 to go that, to say, let's just do 20, because if we broke it down this year and they do the same thing I do, they go, listen, I'm not putting USC in, I'm not putting Michigan in, I'm not putting this team in. So, you know, maybe that's what they get to. But if you go to 16 from 12 and you say we're gonna have the 4 autonomy group champions get in, we're going to have 1 champion outside of the autonomy group of the other 6 conferences. That's 5 spots. We're going to guarantee Notre Dame because we don't want to listen to them cry and complain, and they're going to baby something that's been ridiculously babied throughout history. And again, folks, I'm a fan of Notre Dame being a Catholic university. I'm a fan of a lot of things about Notre Dame. I'm not a fan of coddling a child, let alone a grown human being. This thing's been around for over 100 years. I'm not going to baby them anymore. So, and you have control of it, CFP. You saw them bend over the NCAA and tell them what's up. Don't let them do it to you. But if you go to 16, then you add 4 more spots. So you're essentially adding, you're going to have 11 at large. But if one of them is guaranteed, so you got 5 that are going to go. You got the autonomy group, and then you have 1 outside of the autonomy group champion. That's 5 spots. Plus Notre Dame is 6 spots. So if you go to 16, now you have 10 at large. But it's going to create more of the same. It's not going to protect the FBS. It's not going to protect everybody outside of the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC. So this is the only conversation for the college football playoff to have. Do we care about conference champions and protecting the FBS as a whole, or do we break away, have 16, and then eventually see the other conferences outside of the autonomy group and Notre Dame leave and form their own championship and form their own division because they're not going to go through this BS with the autonomy group anymore? So if you go to 16, you're not going to protect the other 6 conferences. If you go to 24, you will. So it just comes down to what you care about. Do you care about the FBS, or do you only care about the SEC and the Big 10?
And do you want to see them get rid of all the conference championship games? I like the conference championship games, but some people are like, oh, it's not fair because then let's say Alabama didn't have to play it or Miami
Then there's
didn't
no
have to play
point
it.
playing in the regular season.
Yeah, because then they're like,
There's
oh,
no point
Miami
having
didn't have to play in
conferences.
it, and they were going to get in anyway, and then it was Duke over Virginia, and Duke didn't get an automatic bid into the tournament, into the playoffs. They're like, what's the point? Because like you don't have to even get to your conference championship game, you could still sneak in. So then they're like, oh, and also they're saying, oh, it goes too late in the season, and it messes up between the crazy transfer portal, and then it goes from the break between fall semester into the spring semester, beginning of that. So then they're like, oh, maybe we should just get rid of all conference championship games and go right into the playoffs, the first round of the like wild card playoffs. I still want to keep the conference championship games, but I want them to matter, and that's why I would love automatic bid that you get in, whether it be a small conference or a big conference. You get in, and then the at-large teams, they have to fight for it of who gets selected by the committee.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So
maybe 24 makes sense, even though you might be playing insanely deep into the year, or you might have to move the year up.
You just change
things.
You change the days between
week 0
games.
might have to start with all the teams playing instead of just a few teams. Like you're going to have to maybe move up the calendar a little bit and less weeks in between the playoff games and stuff like that.
Well, the thing is you just and for people saying, how does it work? How can you do this? It's going to cut into school. It's going to cut in the spring semester. Things like you said.
And that portal, you gotta delay the portal till after the playoffs.
But my response to you and how can it work? And it'll do all these things and mess up the schedule. The FCS Division I AA, they have 24. And they were done before the CFP was done. So it does work.
I think January 5th, that Monday night before 2 weeks, Mondays work. Before. They were done by January 5th. Like before 2 weeks before the national title game.
That game was fantastic. And you honor your conference champions. You honor the conferences that put together better teams. And like the FCS's model is workable. It's good. And I don't typically hear of any issue. And it's 24. They get them all in. They get it done before the CFP's over. So you think about that. They got twice the amount of the CFP, and they're done 2 weeks before. So it can work.
The only weird thing is they don't really have bowl games at that level, and then Division 1A still loves that.
They play at their. You get to host the games. So maybe if you go to 24, maybe you have 2 rounds of the higher seed hosting a game at home.
Because right now they only do the first.
Then you go into bowls, but then the question becomes: you keep the 6 bowls that are in the college football playoff. Do you approach other bowls and do you say to 2 other bowls, come into the fray, and do you bring in 2 more bowls to this? If you go to 16 and you go to 24, do you add bowl games within the college football playoff, or do you say these are our 6, everything else is going to be playing at the home of the higher seed? Or do you say, okay, we're going to expand, we're going to keep our 6 bowls, but we're going to bring in 2 more bowls or 4 more bowls that we feel have the reputation, they have the history, they have shown that financially they can fundraise and do the things that they need to do, because people don't understand how much money you have to fundraise and all these things that are a part of it. And these bowl games are doing a hell of a lot more work, and it's a 365 day a year job. It's not a 1 day a year game that people think it is. There's so much more that goes into it. They have committees. They got a lot of stuff going on. They're planning for next year right now. So we're going to
then those bowl games might go out the window. If you have a rotating basis, make it a little more fair and add some other bowl games into the mix of those playoff sites, that'd be cool. But then at that point, whatever's left over, they might just be playing for the heck of it. Like those might pretty much the whole bowl system might go out the window, and then bowl games as we know it will cease to exist. And some people will be happy with that. I kind of like the bowl games because when I'm bored, like when it's the dead of winter and I have nothing better to do, I like to put on a football game. Even while I'm like writing up an article for like a basketball game I covered at Penn State Scranton, like it's fun just to have a random football game on in the background. Even if it doesn't matter, I don't care about the programs. I don't have a personal stake in the game. It's kind of fun, just something that's on like on the background to watch during the holidays. So I don't know if they go that route, then we might see the end of the bowl games.
Well,
or maybe you put the bowl games at the beginning of the season. That's the other thing I've heard people say. Maybe put some bowl games at the beginning of the season or regular season games so they'll matter, they'll count, and people will put their best players in and not have them sit because they're going to go to the portal or transfer, go to the NFL draft. Maybe put some bowl games at the beginning of the season instead of the end of the season. Get them out of the way. They'll count as regular season games, and then save the end of the season for the playoffs, the expanded playoffs, and where the games matter the most, and stick the bowl games at the beginning of the year. And at least there'll be regular season games that people will play hard to win, and they won't rest players because those will matter because they'll need to get those wins and losses to qualify for the playoffs.
Well, they've already done that bowl game style with the Aflac kickoff game and some other games that they
maybe that's
do.
how you have to do it.
So with that being, and we talk about here on the show this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, we talk about the fact that they're already planning for next year. Right after I said that, the ACC sent us out an email. They've already planned their day and time of day and channel for their ACC football championship game for next season. So with that being said...
Oh, yeah, I did see that Syracuse and ACC, they were going to announce the schedule today. I was going to mention that to you, that they were going to release their schedule for this upcoming season.
Schedule gets released today, and I'll be doing a bonus edition of Wake Up Call tonight as I did last year to bring you through the schedule. And they have already announced that their game is going to be at noon Eastern time on Saturday, December 5th. And, of course, as always, it'll be on ABC. So with that being said, Ross and I will take our final step aside inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. When we come back after this fast break, we will be talking about NIL, the portal, and tampering. We'll finish up with something that I commend Dabo Sweeney for going out and speaking on, as I've already heard from athletic directors and coaches over the last couple of years that this has been happening. It's no secret. And once again, the NCAA is on the clock. What are they going to do?
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942. And tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Go and find them Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, Sundays from 10 to 5, and they have everything. Singles, packs, boxes, graded cards. You potentially could walk in there, find a 101, an autograph of your favorite player, your favorite actor, actress. They have really awesome, unique cards, Garbage Pail Kids. They have Topps Chrome Marvel Studios. A lot of things while supplies last that are just really cool and unique. You could be a big kid and fan the flame of that kid's spirit every single week at GG Cards and Breaks. We look forward to seeing you over there on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. And a big time thanks to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt. That massive Chick-fil-A, you can't miss it, is on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. They had to get a light made just for this Chick-fil-A because of the traffic that they were anticipating. And you have shown up. The double drive-through, the giant dining area, and of course you can order on the app and pick it up. It's all there with Megan Sorber and her team at Chick-fil-A in DeWitt. We look forward to seeing you there today. And they may have some of those new cups that sold out. What? You better get yourself over to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt today. Do not waste some time. Get there on the double and, of course, be safe. Ross and I are here talk with you about a lot of different things. We're rounding out today's show inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios in Great Lakes Honda City, coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Go there for sales and service Monday through Saturday. And of course,
we're going to have to make this quick because my phone is dying. I think I have 10% battery on my phone. We've been on it for...
Yeah, let me
we've
just
had a good
quick.
time, but we've been on for like 3 hours and 15 minutes.
I know
My phone
we've been
is
on for a long time.
I've loved it, but my phone's flashing. I got 10% battery, so I didn't know what this phone can give out.
I'll say this really quick.
Plus, my kids already are banging at the doors. When the hell's Daddy coming back upstairs?
Get a sneak peek.
We got to wrap this up.
We will. Get a sneak peek of Great Lakes Honda City's inventory by going to greatlakeshondacity.com. Final note here, NIL portal and tampering. The name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal were never meant to be used together. They were supposed to be mutually exclusive. You could do NIL, you can form agreements and find money for players once they've come to your team from the portal. They've signed. So they come to the portal because they want to play for you and be a part of your program, your school, get an education there. Once they sign on the dotted line, then you can talk about NIL. It was never supposed to coerce them to go into the portal. It was never supposed to bring them from one school to the other. And it was never supposed to be the recruiting tool for the portal to simply just use name, image, and likeness. Tampering is to become a normal thing. Dabo Swinney spoke out about it publicly. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think it's pretty wild that, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's just sour grapes because he's starting to struggle the last few years with Clemson, and maybe, you know, he probably could stay there forever, that he feels like he's a little bit on the hot seat or he can't compete with all this. But yeah, he said it's pretty wild that he has the guy who, unless he's embellishing the story, at 8 a.m. he's in class, and that Coach Golden, the new Ole Miss coach, who took over for the very shady, kind of people think very scummy Lane Kiffin coach at Ole Miss, who's now at LSU, that he called, and apparently, allegedly, Lane Kiffin does similar tactics. That Coach Goldberg from Ole Miss, he calls him up and says, I know you're signed, but how much is that buyout? And that seems very shady to me. That you're going to pretty much say, like, we know you're signed, we're spoken for. Like, if you're married, you say, I know you're married, but is there any wiggle room there? Like, that's messed up. That's dirty. It's shady. It's like dirty politics, but that's unfortunately what college sports has become. And as you said, it was never supposed to be like this with the NIL deal, because I was all for giving a stipend to these players, beyond their full scholarship. I was all for letting them have their likeness in a commercial, sell jerseys with their back of their name because the school was making money off of that, and they used to get in trouble and lose eligibility, get suspended for that. I was all for players making money like that way in smaller increments. They could get money for that, for the college football video game that's come back that they got rid of, that they have their name and number on the back, or for used to be, they just had their number on the back, but you knew who it meant. You knew number 5 for USC was Reggie Bush, number 11 was Matt Leinart back in the early 2000s. So I'm all for that, but now you're offering, wheeling and dealing, $4.5 million for Carson Beck. You're offering $4 million. Some of these guys, they actually can make more money staying in college for the year than they could if they went into the NFL draft right now, unless they're going to be one of the top 5 draft picks. They're like, we might as well stay in college because I can make millions of dollars. I could be on a guaranteed winning team, be the king of campus, and pretty much you're like a professional athlete, but you don't have the pressures of playing in the NFL. It's nuts that you're wheeling and dealing, you're trying to steal players away. And then you're talking about ACC, the conference with Syracuse, and they're giving out the schedules this week. Still undecided, but the Duke quarterback had agreed to come back, and then now wants to go to the portal. Everyone's saying Miami wants to steal him away because they need a replacement for Carson Beck at quarterback. So the school's trying to sue him. They're trying to put pretty much like a stranglehold that he can't get into the portal. When he's committed to the school, he was coming back and then wanted to leave. And I think the same thing happened at the University of Washington. Their quarterback agreed to come back and then changed his mind and people are alleging that someone tampered with him. The college coach said, we'll give you $1 few million if you join our side. Then wanted to come out, and then the school threatened to sue him, saying that you agreed in contract, so you're an adult now. This is professional sports, kind of college sports, because of this Wild Wild West crazy no rules atmosphere. You agreed not to enter the portal and leave. Your breach of contract, we will sue you and not let you go to the portal and leave because you're breaking the contract. And then in the end, he backed down and decided to stay. And now the Duke quarterback, it's still yet to be determined. Can he go in the portal? Can he leave? Because he agreed to stay. And now it looks like he's trying to wiggle out and go to the portal. It's just very shady. It's very dirty and crooked. At least it looks like the Mendoza, the brother, that looks at least legit that he decided, they brought in a new quarterback in Indiana. He didn't want to have to compete for the starting job. And he decided to go to Georgia Tech. He won a national title, got to play with his brother, play in mop-up duty and blowouts.
Because Haynes King's finished up his time, and Haynes King's been at G-Tech for a while. He's done an awesome job, and now Mendoza's got an opportunity.
And hopefully he gets a chance to play and do well and get his brother's shadow and do well at Georgia Tech.
And I'll get to cross paths with him and hopefully get to interview him in just a few months.
Yeah, but it seems very dirty. Yeah. And I don't know your thoughts about the Duke quarterback and the Washington quarterback before him. You agree to come back. You agree you're not going to go to the portal. They have general managers now for college sports. Yeah. They say you're going to stay. They assemble their team around that we have our quarterback. And now the guy decides, I want to leave because I've been tampered with. I got millions of dollars offers. I'm just going to leave and jump ship. And you screw over the whole team and the whole dynamics of we have our franchise college quarterback, which is nuts that you could say that because it sounds like the NFL. And then you have GMs now in college football. But now you're going to leave and screw up the whole dynamic and how competitive it is because someone's offering you illegally under the table, allegedly, a job. And then, you're getting messages in class like, what's your buyout? It sounds like a creepy guy online trying to score a date with a married woman or a married man. That seems shady to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
someone needs to step in. The big boys, you said, people who have common sense need to step in and find a way to put sensible rules so this kind of tampering can't continue.
Number one, you have to have rules. Number two, you have to implement them. It's as simple as that. If you have no rules, you have no society. If you have rules but you don't enforce those rules, you have no society. And the NCAA is in a place where, like I said, 8 years ago, I made the prediction. My words were 5 to 10 years from now, the NCAA is going to look drastically different than it has looked in the past, if it even exists at all, if they continue to go down this road of having just kind of doing whatever they want, not having these are the rules, these are the consequences, just changing things for everybody, punishing some, not others. And then you throw NIL and the transfer portal in, it's got even more weird and more strange, and it doesn't make any sense. So, yes, tampering needs to be talked about. No, Dabo Swinney's not doing this because he's struggled as a coach. He's doing it because it's wrong, and he's one of those people that actually seems to care about kids, has a faith in God. I've been around him for a lot of years, and I've done I just did a one-on-one with Dabo this season about his faith and about things that matter to him, and he still cares about developing kids and actually trying to win the right way. So I commend him for that. And this is what it needs to be, Ross. You sign on the dotted line, you're responsible. If Darian Mensah, for example, signs a 2-year deal to be at Duke and tries to leave after a year, then he's breaching the contract. If you breach the contract, there's punishments when you breach my contract. There needs to be punishment. If you breach a contract and you got a 2-year NIL deal and they're supposed to give you, $4 million, let's say, over 2 years, and you breach it, and it says if you breach this deal, you got to pay back. You have to pay off the rest of the deal, and the rest of the deal he owes $2.5 million. Guess what? You're gonna have to figure out how to pay for that money. Yeah. Better start washing dishes.
But I think the players see it. They're going to use the excuse, coaches have broken contracts for years and buyouts, they leave after signing a contract extension. And now they feel like this is their right. And now you can go to a new team every year, be a free agent. You have to beg your players to come back, convince them to protect them. Sometimes don't even let them play in the spring ball game because if they do too well and ball out, the other teams, the other vultures, the other schools are going to try to steal them away. Sometimes you try to hide these young players before the other schools can find out. So a lot of it's like, look at that college coach jumped ship when he decided to stay with a contract. So now a lot of these players want to abandon their contract, breach a contract, don't think there's anything wrong with it, and leave because of all the tampering. But, the thing right now is you want to be an adult. You want to get paid like a professional. You sign a contract. You're going to have to either stay, honor it, and do the noble thing. Or if you want to leave, you're going to have to help. Or maybe the other school illegally or unlegally. I don't know what's allowed anymore with all these rule changes. Someone's going to have to buy it out and make the other school whole and pay the rest of that salary that was agreed upon in that contract. That's a legal document. You're an adult. You want to be an adult. Those are the consequences.
This is the thing. The NCAA wants to function with, you want to function in a world where you're not pro, but you're not college. You're not professional, but you're not amateur. And you're living in this thing where this middle ground is not okay, and the model's not going to, number one, the amount of money that's going into this thing, it's not going to be able to survive. Number two, it can't survive being kind of pro, kind of amateur. And it's also not going to survive on the fact that there's no rules or like you have to be able to abide by things. The only way to protect yourself right now in the lawlessness of collegiate athletics is to make a player sign a multi-year deal so you know that you have them this year and next year, so you're not dealing with every single year guys jumping in the portal. The only way to protect yourself is to sign a multi-year deal. And if those don't even, I'll put it to you like this. Handshakes used to be enough. You would verbally say something, look somebody in the eye, shake their hand. That was the deal back in the day. Then you signed a contract. Signed contracts are legal documents, okay? If your word doesn't mean enough to you and you're not going to live up to your word, a signed contract is a legal document. If signatures don't mean anything anymore, then nothing means anything anymore. I had a company that had a signed contract with me, and he breached his contract, and he said, sue me, get in line with everybody else, because it seems like everybody's suing me now. That was his mentality. And guess what? He no longer has his business. I don't know what happened to it, but he owed me over $10,000. He owed a bunch of other people money. And his response to me was, feel bad for me, feel sorry for me, and get in line because everybody's suing me. That was his response. Dotted line signatures are supposed to mean something. Unless you get a hold of yourself, NCAA, you are going to cease to exist. My prediction will become reality. I didn't want that for you. It was a cautionary tale. These players and these coaches have to abide by what they sign. If they don't, then we have nothing. Contracts are the only binding agreement that holds anything together in our society. If you don't abide by these contracts, you have a dead system. And if you have a dead system, then good luck, because you're going to be recruiting 60 to 100 players every single year.
Yeah, it's just madness, and something has to change. As you said, we can go back to the beginning of the show as we wrap up. Common sense. We need common sense in society, in politics, in life, in sports, collegiately, and in the pros. We need common sense. We need big boy adults to come into a room, form a committee, be non-biased, and find a way to make sensible common sense rules so we can make this a fair system where the players can get paid some money, coaches get paid, the programs do well, but no one screws each other over and backstabs each other by doing tampering and illegal activity, because all hell breaks loose in a lawless society because they just care about winning and they don't care how much money they have to spend, how much they have to step over their competition, and contracts don't matter. And now kids, great, they're getting some money, but now it's a cutthroat business, and if they don't perform, are they going to get cut like in the NFL and lose their money? And there's a guaranteed money and all that stuff. But we need common sense, and we need a responsible committee. Get you in the committee, get some other responsible members, and let's get this done. And maybe Coach Saban or some other people in the collegiate game, Lee Corso if he was younger, Kirk Herbstreit maybe, Chris Fowler, people respect, Reese Davis, people respect their opinions. Form a committee of people with different backgrounds in college sports, and let's get this situated and corrected, because in the 5 years it's going to go from a law society to NCAA meaning nothing, and they're going to have their own random league with the other major conferences, so it's going to be madness. So let's get some common sense in this world and everything, including in sports. And we'll have a better society.
Wrote the article 2 years ago and ended it with this: if you do not put a fence around the horses, you'll be chasing them back into the barn every single night. Ross Turetsky, as always, appreciate you. Appreciate the fact that everything today tied back into one giant story, which is about common sense, working together, and actually sticking up for things and trying to create a society that has rules, regulations, and some type of fence around the horses. And as always, I thank you for being here. And I know you're going to end it with Arnold Schwarzenegger, because you always do. So
get back, Jamie. Thanks for having me on the show, Dan Tortora. This is the Turbo Man. Jamie, thanks for having me for all these hours. It has flown by, 3.5 hours of your life. Hopefully you watch the show while you're on the toilet and you'll have a good time. And you scroll it, you watch a few seconds of it, and it makes your day. We talk about common sense and about sports and football and life and all that great stuff. And then let's stop being the puny man, and we got to live life and not give participation trophies. Let's have a better, kinder society where you earn your keep and you earn your place in life. Let's do it, because the Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger says it is not a tumor. And let's go. And thanks for having me on the show, Dan. Have a good day. Have a good week. And stay warm in the cold snow. and enjoy yourself, Dan. Bye-bye.
You too, buddy. Be safe, be well. I love y'all, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Bye-bye.
See you. That coming from Ross Turetsky here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We thank you for being here with us. We got one more step aside, and we've started off the week by promising you 2 hours and giving you almost 4. So under promise, over deliver. That's our thing, including here in the new year, of course, as it's always been. We'll take a step aside. We'll wrap things up right after this. Stay with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Avicoli's Restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on into the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily?
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com inside these Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Once the show goes live, we're happy to be here with you on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big time thanks to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Myers Creek, Bryan's Landing, Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, Pizza Man, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, Game Point Sports Complex. If I said it, I'm going to say it again because I love that place. Chick-fil-A Cicero, and of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner. Avicoli's as well. Let me make sure I mentioned them. Love being at Avicoli's, and we'll be there this Thursday with another Liverpool Spotlight. And of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. Make sure you're here with us in our Bobcat coverage. 4 years of coverage with the Bobcats. Student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni joining the show. You could go to youtube.com /WakeUpCallDT. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find the BSC Syracuse playlist for the Bobcats of over 200 episodes. Binghamton University are proud exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Bearcats every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time during Bearcat Time, with student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni joining the show. The Bearcats are on youtube.com /WakeUpCallDT. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Binghamton playlist. The Bearcats are also on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab for more information. Go to BinghamtonBearcats.com and go Bearcats. The Onondaga Community College Lasers are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Lasers every other Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time with student athletes, coaches, and administration. You can find all of our content in the Laser Lounge by going to youtube.com /WakeUpCallDT. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find the OCC playlist. The Lasers are also on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. And for more information on the Lasers, go to OnondagaLasers.com. I thank you all for tuning in today. I thank Ross for spending ample time with me. 3.5 hours plus we've been here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. So if you're snowed in, snow day, whatever's going on, I appreciate you being with us, listening and watching the show. And I hope you all stay safe, stay warm. God be with you. And as always, God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll be back tomorrow by the grace of God. Talking with you soon. In the meantime, find Wake Up Call on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Let's make a better society together. From the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, have a beautiful day. We'll talk soon. And I appreciate you.